You would,
And there's no condom for that.
I could, yes. Thank you. That's good. I love that. There's no condom for bad energy. I'm going to steal that from you, Bad Boy.
Alrighty, hey guys, welcome to the second episode of the multi-coach panel. Let's do some quick intros. I'm going to do the intros for everyone. So we have the living legend, founder and father of the seduction community, and the magical master of muff, the guru of game, the prince of poontang, and the ayatollah of moist pankola. Broke the world record in 1992 for the greatest demonstration of frame control ever seen in a room full of feminists on NBC, played by Tom Cruise in Magnolia, mentioned at least 49 times in Neil Strauss's book, The Game. And people keep commenting this on my videos. When Andrew Tate was just a sperm cell, there was only Ross Jeffries. So he's here with us. Where are you calling in from today?
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm here in San Diego. It's beautiful. There's not a cloud in the sky. Perfect weather.
San Diego, there we go. And next we have the bad boy himself. Survived a bullet to the brain, rose up from the wheelchair to become the ultimate pimp, voted the best pickup artist in the world twice, dated Miss Croatia, and mentioned multiple times in the same book, The Game. It's Bad Boy. You're calling in from Zagreb?
Yeah, guys, from Zagreb. Greetings from raining Zagreb, Croatia. First day of autumn, so it's a little bit sucks. But good, happy to be here, Oh, you forget one thing, and inventor of the reg game.
Yes, inventor of direct games, so there's that. Yeah. And we have former coach at Real Social Dynamics. His teeth are whiter than me. It's former RSD Sam Matheson. Hey, where are you calling in from?
Thanks for having me, boss. Thank you. I'm Australia, Sydney, man. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning for you. So very lucky this morning.
Good morning.
I really appreciate that. That's amazing. It's always difficult to get an Australian to join any of my calls because it's always catered for the USA. But
no, we're an island. We're a colony, a penal colony out in the middle of nowhere. So
exactly. Alrighty, so let's get started. So Ross, you're the father of the game here. What questions from guys or topics have you grown tired of over the years? Let's get those out of the way. How about that?
Oh, how did you get started? Which to me is I've been doing this now. I did my first seminar in 92, I believe. So that's 32 years, coming up on 32 years. The question I'm tired of hearing is, how did you get started? The more interesting question to me is, how have you stayed passionate and innovative doing this after such a length of time? That's the interesting question. What has kept me passionate and creative as ever? And then I get questions like, did you really sniff Carmen Electra's ass? And by the way, I wasn't trying to sniff it. I was trying to kiss it as a joke, because everyone there is metaphorically kissing her ass. So I thought, let's make fun of all of them and physically do it, but it looked like nothing. The Neil. What else am I tired of guys asking me? Did you really do that thing in the game where you made the waitress get all hot and bothered with the sugar packets? The answer is yes, I did. What else? How many women have you slept with? That, to me, it's not a relevant number. The really relevant body count number is how many tens of thousands of men have had their lives changed by my work, and how many thousands have been saved from killing themselves. It's not atypical at all. When I used to events, I've officially retired because I've moved on to doing more lucrative things. I've had guys come to me and say, look, I was going to drink bleach. I had it there in the nightstand, or I was going to eat a bullet. So that's a very relevant number to me. How many lives have been actually saved? How many children and families are in the world due to my work? That's very deeply fulfilling to me when I get emails from people with attachments. Here's a picture of my kids and my wife, and et cetera, et cetera. So those are the questions that I get that I find irksome.
I completely agree though. That's very interesting actually. Justin has just jumped in here, so let me just quickly introduce him. Justin's intro. What did I write here? So traditional conservatives hate him. Everyone in India wants to be him. Only one person from India has ever gone to space. But this guy is the only guy from India to have ever had multiple white girls as girlfriends. He is so short, if you thought the CN Tower was huge, it's 2 times bigger for him, as Justin Marc.
Hey guys, what's going on?
Hey,
Hey, what's up,
Justin.
Ross? How's it going, man?
Peace,
All
man.
good.
What's up, guys?
I couldn't have come up with such a funny introduction. That's brilliant.
Yeah, spontaneously, but there
The,
you well, not
warm
spontaneous,
introduction.
just a few hours ago. And of course, he's calling in from Toronto. I know where he is, so there's that. Yeah, I'm just gonna get back onto what Ross was saying. I got some good questions coming up a little bit later about some of those things, but I was looking at something today where it said once a man gets like the whole lay count thing, I'm kind of tired of that when people are like, because there's this certain coach who lives in Brazil or a place like that, and he's very flashy, and he has this number which he always boasts about, which gets updated every week. It's like at some point, does it really matter? Like as long as it's beyond a certain number. I was looking at something on a forum today where it said something like beyond 50 or 150 or something like that. It's like you have made it, so there's no point kind of really dragging on these numbers and all of that kind of stuff. But it is really refreshing to actually hear that the real impact is not from oneself, it's from what has been happening to the people who have followed your work. So
Can I
first
add
time
something to that?
yeah
Can I
yeah
add something to the answer? The skill set of being a great seduction artist, you can be someone who bangs a million chicks or whatever, however you define it. That skill set and the skill of teaching and the skill of being a healer are completely separate skills. Just because you're good at it's not just the accomplished fact that you're very good at seducing women doesn't mean you have this very complex and intricate skill set to teach it, and it doesn't mean you have the ability to heal the very traumatized people who are coming to you. I want to dive into that topic later, so forgive me for interrupting, but I really wanted to, excuse me, I'm so sorry, to get that point across.
Oh no, that's all good. That's perfect. We're definitely going to get through that later. Let's move on to the next thing. Still, this is directed at you, but I'm asking everyone at the same time as well. People keep commenting on my videos. Before there was Andrew Tate, there was Ross Jeffries. I'm not even making this up. This has happened multiple times now, and I'm seeing it over and over again. What are your thoughts on Andrew Tate?
You know, at first I had a reactionary knee-jerk, this guy's an idiot, but some of the things he has to say are incredibly valuable. For example, when he says, when I love a woman, that's when I'm harder on her. That's when I really exert my boundaries. That's when I say no more often. That's my job. I thought about that. And I thought, you know, he's right. That's a way to set a good leadership. I think when he shows off his wealth and he's very ostentatious like that, I find that off-putting. And if he gets into stuff where I don't know whether I'm distorting his message. I don't want to distort someone else's message, but sometimes it comes off as women are inherent and by their very nature and their genetics, narcissists and the rest of it. I think narcissism is a human trait. I don't know that it's any more common in women than it is in men. It just shows up differently. So when he strays off into that, I'm not so fond of it. But a lot of the stuff, more and more, I'm coming to see is really quite true.
Mm-hmm. What do the rest of you guys think about Andrew Tate?
Yeah, I would say like, 60% of the message, what he's saying is, good, like 60, 70%, like, especially because he's like, he really chose the target audience, young kids, new generation who like, early 20s, 18, 19, that's kind of his public, what he's actually, targeting to. So actually, there's some really good messages there. There are some really, as Ross says, there's some really kind of bad stuff that kind of that we don't all agree with, like really some old stuff actually before the jail, like it was really like controversial and like questionable. As well, what I really don't like is actually he's in a way creating lots of simps, because like and I have seen this like many like like podcasts and stuff, because like whenever you ask him, okay, like he's like, okay, be a man, be a man, be a man. How do you be a man? Make money. Okay, that's not how you be a man. That's not how you success, because like then that guy if you just go work, and then again you're gonna be spending and burning cash on the girls, again you're creating it's again same loop. So like whenever they're asking him like okay, like but how do you be a man, go there, like create a company, make millions, this is the way how like buy cars, that's not the way how you become a man. It's really, it's not the way how you become masculine and the man. And so I would say there are some good messages along the line what he's saying, there are some bad ones.
All right, what about you, Sam?
Yeah, honestly, sorry, go for it, Sam.
Oh, you go, Justin. You're started. Come on, bro.
All right. So no, I actually really like Andrew Tate. I really like Andrew Tate's message. I've consumed a lot of his content. I remember when I first saw an Andrew Tate video, the first reaction, I was like, this guy's an asshole. That was the first thing I saw. I remember turning the video off because I just thought he was a dick. And then I realized a lot of what he says is trolling. Like he's just trolling a lot. And I actually started consuming a lot more of his material and trying to like dig into his like deeper message. And what I saw was him speaking a lot of masculine wisdom, talking about putting your purpose first as a man, not putting women first, work on yourself, work on your fitness, work on your career, working on your mental health, your mindset. And then even a lot what he has to do with relationships and even a lot of his newer content, I think it's actually very beneficial. I think it's a 100% net positive. And now I know when he first went viral, when he first popped off, it was a lot of like short form content that was, a lot of it was just like clickbait marketing. And he had to do what he had to do to get famous and get the eyeballs on him. But now he has that audience. Like I've actually seen inside some of his courses and the content's really, really good. Like he has this business course, his like original business course. He does like an 8-hour speech just about business. And I thought it was like extremely valuable information. It was like better than most business courses. So I actually really like his content. I think he has a way of delivering things that does off-put a lot of people because of his sense of humor. But I definitely don't think his content's made for kids. But I definitely think he's like a really good masculine role model for most guys, because most guys these days are fucking pussies. I think the red pill space has taken over the dating coach community, and a lot of these red pill guys don't really get results in life. A lot of them are fucking broke. A lot of them just talk into a microphone and don't get any results with women. And I feel like Andrew Tate actually is a high achieving man. So he is someone to look up to, right? If you want to take advice from someone, you should be willing to actually humble yourself, and it should be someone you're willing to trade places with. So if they're getting more girls than you, making more money than you, or have more life experience than you, I mean, yeah, you should listen to them. And most of these red pill guys don't actually have that. But I never really saw Andrew Tate as like a red pill guy. I just see him kind of as like a motivational speaker, almost like Mike Tyson or something like that, right? He's like a professional athlete. He's just giving his life experience. So I've always really respected his message.
Okay. And Sam.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. Yeah, definitely. Because I'm surrounded with a lot of their friends. I've definitely noticed one of the biggest things that was over the last couple of years that you've seen is the algorithm at work, especially with TikTok, his marketing strategy with TikTok. And so even when someone gets a bit of the negative stuff, they're going to consume more negative stuff because of the algorithm. So if you really dig deep into his messages, like Justin said, there's that 0 to 100 business lessons in Hustlers University, the original one of the most beneficial business 8-hour speeches that he just gave off the cuff that you could ever have. Now, is like, again, everyone, if we put out all our points that we had, I'm sure they're going to rattle some bones. I'm sure they're going to be able to push the wrong people at the wrong times, but that's what it is in today's society. You know, you're not supposed to agree with everything everyone says. And so I think that's a great demonstration that he's definitely put his message out, and other people are now putting his message out because you're getting copycats of him and this and that. So I think it's a whatever the outcome, whether you like him or not, I think it's been a beneficial couple of years over like a difficult period. And so I remember watching a video and they said like a quote unquote hero would arise over the last couple of years. And he's been the quote unquote sort of figure that has helped or at least pushed masculinity in even just the topic being discussed. Let's just say that, even if you think it's good or bad, I think that because it's been pushed through that's been a beneficial for a lot of kids and a lot of, young adults going into early adulthood.
Alrighty, nice. Let's move on to another thing. So this is a bit, we're going to discuss a variety of things basically, but do you guys feel that infield footage is a bit of a gimmick? So sure, you can see interactions, but you're not necessarily seeing the stuff that isn't flashy. You're seeing like the exciting, flashy stuff, let's say. So I think all of you guys might have a very interesting perspective on this because Ross, for one, I don't think there really was this whole concept of infield footage way back when you started, because you're
This has come up many times for me from people who ask me, why don't you have infield footage? And my thing is always to say, look, the best proof that my stuff works is your own results. I have plenty of free stuff. On my website. Go use the stuff that's absolutely free. Try it for 30 days. Your own results, cannot be faked. The problem with infield footage is I happen to know from defectors that some of these coaches hire actresses, hire models. They only show the stuff where they're successful and cut the rest of it out. I'm a veteran of the media. I know that the media edits stuff. So why wouldn't people who have a product to push edit their stuff? And you don't know what's fake, what's real, what's actresses, how many times they struck out and they're only showing the successes. The best proof that anyone's stuff works is to go out, use it for yourself, see the results. If you're not getting results, that's a good indication that the system or what's being taught is full of shit. That's my answer. It's always been my answer. That answer isn't going to change.
Like that. Nice. Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, I have a lot of infield footage on my YouTube channel. Like I have like an 8-hour compilation. You just search up Justin Marc infield footage or Justin Marc 100 approaches. I have like 2 different videos that I do over 100 approaches infield in a day. And I think it is good to show guys it's possible because I think a lot of guys are under the impression, especially in modern society, that you can't approach women or you can't do this, you can't do that. And just showing guys what is actually possible, right? I think it's very beneficial. Now, I think the actual fundamental strategies are the most important, right? But I definitely think for garnering attention, garnering an audience, and yes, it is a marketing strategy. I agree with Ross there 100%, but just showing footage or showing content of you socializing or seducing is a very powerful tool because, I mean, for the business aspect, it's great, but even for the coaching aspect, I think it's really beneficial. Like I have an online course. I'm not trying to push my course, right? But one of my students got access to my course and he sees a bunch of infield footage. And because I actually hired this student of mine to work on my nightclub promoter team. And he told me, he's like, wow, I'm actually like the light bulbs are going off. Like I'm actually understanding, how you did it. Cause I have a lot of old infield footage in there and I have like some of the newer stuff and he can kind of see that like progression. And so the like he's actually getting really good results. Cause this dude's like a 29-year-old millionaire, but he's a virgin. And he's never, I don't think he's even kissed a girl, right? And we did a coaching program, started getting really good results, started making out girls, started getting dates, right? He's like this close to losing his virginity, but he just has to like kind of develop that backbone and he didn't know where to pick that up from, right? And so the only way to really do that is go out and try things, test things, be around women, go on dates, you know, go out there. And then how else do you like study at home? So you really have to figure out ways to study stuff at home, whether it's like seduction books or like OG content, or, you know, infield footage, or just studying different coaches, right? So I definitely think infield footage is a really good benefit. And it is kind of like, I agree that there's a lot of coaches out there who just have hired actresses and done all kinds of bullshit. But I definitely think if you can find people who are very authentic with what they do, you kind of almost like copy what they do and copy their, you know, body language, copy their tonality, copy their like behavioral cues, right? And kind of almost like get there quicker.
Yeah, I think just going to build on your points there. So of the guys here I have met in person, I have met Ross and Justin in person, just for everyone to know. And I think the benefit in your case is that people can see, first of all, you're an Indian guy living in Toronto. So when other Indian guys see that, or South Asians, they think, okay, there's something possible there. And your shortness, your height being another factor there, which we discussed last time. I can really see how that can be a benefit to people who believe that their height or their ethnicity is a bad thing, but then you're completely breaking that mold, showing it is possible.
You've got a good point.
Yeah.
I'm saying maybe I can send some customers your way. I've had one of the, first of all, my Indian students have been the brightest by far. They always get it quickest, but then they also start with that objection. I'm not going to try to do be racist and try to do the accent, but they always start with that same objection. I'm a little brown man. Women wouldn't like me because I'm little and I'm brown. And what I have to do, or when I used to teach, is bring returning students who are little and brown, and they would tell their stories and even have pictures on their phones with their girlfriends. So I think you're absolutely right. I never considered that perspective. Maybe I can send some students your way. I think they could use your help.
Yeah, I had a program recently, and I had this program recently, and like all the guys were like tall, good-looking white guys, and like really good, like wealthy, like 6-figure, 7-figure earning American men. And I had this little Indian dude, like fresh off the boat from India, hard accent, barely spoke English. And by far, he got the most results. I actually couldn't fucking believe it, because he was like, he had the roughest start, but like something clicked and he just got the best results. So I truly believe anyone from any race or height or ethnicity, just for the guys who don't know, I'm 5'4". I'm like 125 pounds. So I'm like skinny, tiny little Indian dude, right? And this is the most I've ever weighed as well. So even last year, I mean, I was vegan. I was 105 fucking pounds. Like, it's insane. And I was absolutely crushing it. I was crushing it, right? So it's crazy. Like, I truly believe it doesn't matter how tall you are, it doesn't matter how skinny you are, like, it doesn't matter if you're fat. Like, you can get results no matter what if you put your best foot forward and you really, you know, go for the gold, right? But I think it really comes down to the character, right? And the effort you put in. And that's where a lot of guys make the mistake, is they don't try enough because they don't think they'll get results. They don't even try, right? We sabotage them in the first place.
Sam, I don't want to push any buttons because you used to work somewhere. Blink twice if you're being held against your will. But say what you want to say. I'm not sure what your perspective is.
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest thing that I've like, you've got to understand that these guys want to see that, like, if it's possible, it's outside of their freaking paradigm that it would be even possible that you could actually improve your life. Like, some of the people that I've met in long years, that's out of their reality. So if they see someone being able to do something, I think it's a benefit, because if there's a tension there and people want to see something, the more the merrier, to be honest. Now, is it great that, you know, people can actually do this? Great. And they're putting that stuff out? Great. Is it cut and edited? Well, everything's cut and edited. I think that's beyond, you know, something that we can control. Man, they've been doing that for years in the media. So I think, again, the more the merrier. But I think even today's day and age, it's not even infield on YouTube. It's things like TikTok. It's things like Instagram stories. And that's where I think most of the infield now is. per se, because you guys can actually see the lifestyle. You can actually see the guys mic'd up. You know, take people on TikTok. It's like every second or third video, you'll see guys risen up girls in the street and doing this and doing that. So I think over the years, it's definitely changed. There was a period there from about 2016 to 2019 that it was condemned and it wasn't great. But now, you know, again, with all the prank channels and all this, I think people are very much more understanding that anonymity in the world doesn't exist anymore. And so you're going to be recorded left, right, and center. So again, if it helps one guy just see someone be able to do something, I think that's a net positive. I know from when I started, being able to see anything, just even like a couple of lines you could say to a girl and she laughed, that was fucking amazing. I was like, wow, all right, let me go try it out. But I had the paradigm of like, oh, if I saw one thing, I would go test it. I would go and see, does that work? Does it not work? Where I think a lot of guys get into that, like that circle jerk of just like, oh, he's got the best or this, and they don't implement anything. That's the difference. So if anything, I think, you know, if the infield was created in such a way that it emphasized, go out and test these things for yourself, go out and find things, experiment and be creative with them. But instead, they're more for clicks and more for, you know, coaching programs, which is okay. Don't get me wrong. That's the state of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Let me say the last word. Okay. Like, you know, on infields, I like using them on the coaching session. And actually, I just tested it last week. I had like a client last week from Russia. And I did like in old school way, basically. Okay, we lots of diagrams, things, theory. We went, you know, he was basically for like 2.5 days, he was trying to do what I was saying to him. Okay, like try to say this, do this, you know, change the topic, you know, basically do lots of day game. And then on basically like, you know, I would say last quarter of the coaching, I show him the infield. I'm like, okay, this is my infield. This is how it has to look like. He's like, moment, completely game change. And really like, you know, it changed basically from that moment, like it was everything just click what he needs to say, how it needs to look like. So, I mean, you can actually, it doesn't need to be infield. You can show it in a person in front of like, you know, the court. But I would say like, you know, definitely it's beneficial. It can help. You know, is it used for like, you know, marketing? Can it be used? Of course, it can be used. Like, you know, I would say it's much better if someone is sitting next to you and explaining, okay, like, you know, this is because of this, because there's so much things happening at this, like, you know, moment, like when you're talking with a girl, like, you know, that just watching it, you know, doesn't get it, like, you know.
I want to add one more thing. Here at the nursing home, they don't allow cameras, so I'd be fucked.
Yeah. Well, you know, actually, I was aiming for this episode to be kind of like old bastards versus young bastards, something like that. So, Dan, you're over the age of 40, right? So I think that works. Yeah. So there we go. Yeah, I was thinking we're gonna have that 40-year cutoff point. So and Sam, I'm guessing you're 30 something years old, unless you're one of those.
No, man, I'm still in my 20s. I'm still a young buck, bro.
Oh wait.
You whippersnapper, go home.
Holy shit. So we really are young bastards versus old bastards today. That's gonna be the thumbnail. So I'm glad we have settled on that. Damn. I was gonna say, Dan and Ross, you being both mentioned in the book, the game multiple times. Have you ever met each other?
Actually, no.
No, I haven't had the pleasure, but one day I'm anymore to travel across a continent and an ocean is an effort for me. If someone wants to plunk 50K in first class airfare and have a few nice young Swedish girls ready to be nice to me, I'll go. But otherwise, I ain't going across an ocean and a continent. Like I said, my focus is now on business and doing some pretty incredible things. So not going to do it. I'd love to meet you someday, and I'd love to hear your war story sometime. Getting shot in the head is, that's pretty intense trauma there.
It's okay. Like, you know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You know how it goes. Life goes on. But actually I've been many times to the States and, you know, tour through whole America. So actually I'm for what, like, you know, 2 weeks from now I'll be in New York coaching one guy. So I'm basically still all over the place.
If you're ever
around.
If you're ever in San Diego, come,
Okay,
contact.
sure, perfect.
Damn,
Perfect.
ice
will.
white making the connections today. That's why we're called Game Global. There we go. 20 years, nearly 20 years of the book, The Game, and these connections are only just being made right now. Anyway, maybe then it's a great opportunity to dive into this because that's quite interesting. There we go. Here's something nobody really talks about. And Ross, when I first interviewed Ross Jeffries in 2018, 5 years ago, he told me a bit about this. So I really want to bring this in because it's important. How important is working through trauma? So a lot of men have trauma, but nobody really talks about it because it's not interesting. And maybe not so many coaches include it in their work. Maybe they don't have the expertise. Maybe it's too complicated. So Ross, can you lead the way? How important is working through trauma?
I think we first have to start with an understanding. To use a metaphor, just because you give someone a new playbook, a different set of plays on a football field, if they have a pair of broken legs, they're not going to be able to use it. I think at least 50% of people who come to coaches, pickup trainers, whatever you want to call it, have serious trauma. And I'll take a minute to define that. Just give me a minute before I do. And that kind of pain is not something you can just tell someone to push through. They're going to look at their progress and their potential through the pain of their past. May I share a story?
Oh, of course, yeah.
I can. So I had a student who used some of my stuff, and for the first time, he had what I thought was a big win. He was in a club. I don't normally teach things for clubs and bars, but he managed to adapt it for that. He approached a woman. I don't remember what he said to her. And then he started using some of my language patterns. Within 20 minutes, she was all over him. And this was like the most attractive one in the bar or the club. He winds up being an idiot. He says, give me your phone number, instead of trying to pull her right then and there. She writes it down on a card. This is back in the days when you had cards, and she wrote down her phone number. He goes home. He figures, I'm going to play it cool. I'm going to wait 3 days before I call her. On the third day, like Jesus, on the third day, he can't find the fucking card, rips his condo to pieces. Then he thinks, oh my God, it's fucking trash night. He goes and he dives down into the trash dumpsters, the dumpster divers. He's doing it for like 3 hours. After 3 hours, he comes up, no card. He calls me up. He said, Ross, I've been depressed for 6 weeks. Why am I such a loser? I can't even talk to women. Now, as a hypnotist, and I've been doing hypnosis for over 30 years, that's a deep hypnotic phenomena. He had to hallucinate away everything he did right and only focus on what he did wrong, because he was looking at his progress through the pain of his past. Many of my students who have come to me over the years have been sexually abused, physically abused by their fathers, beaten, you name it. They've gone through the whole gamut. That's acute trauma. Then there's chronic trauma. The trauma of being in your 30s and never having had an intimate embrace, or your 40s, or even your 50s. That's a chronic trauma. That isolation is chronically traumatic. So there's acute trauma, like our friend suffered when he got shot. That's an acute trauma. There's chronic trauma. My lesson through going through my own healing journey and experimenting with different kind of modalities, because ultimately I view myself as a healer and a teacher, not I teach seduction, and that's all important. So I've taken on many different modalities, and what I've seen is life is inherently traumatic. Life has suffering and trauma woven into the very fabric of it. And if you don't know how to deal with it, or at least at the very least even recognize that the person coming to you is not just lonely, they're traumatized, then you're going to they will have success while they're with you. They're borrowing your confidence, they're borrowing your certainty. But then when they go back into their old living situation, what they're used to, it's all going to get triggered. So I really think it should be brought up. It's sort of the third rail of pickup and seduction. How do we recognize trauma? How do we deal with it? At what point do we say, sorry, I can't help you. You need to go to a professional. What the fuck do we do? There are people who come also to us with addictions and things that I'm not qualified to deal with. I have to send them away. So I think it's something that's just not addressed. I'll tell you a big wound, the father wound. I don't want to sound all airy-fairy, but many of the guys who come to me have had fathers who've been incredibly physically and emotionally abusive, beaten their mothers, beaten them. So they confuse being dominant, appropriately masculine dominance, with being abusive. So rather than be abusers, they'd rather be passive and feminine, and I hate the word simp in the context of someone who's suffering. So I think it's a really big question that has to be addressed. I've done my very best in a 30-year career. First, I had to recognize my own pain. You notice the way I'm presenting today is not the Ross Jeffries of 10 years ago, where I had to make everybody wrong and attack people and the rest of it, because I've gone through my own healing. So I just want to put it out on the table there that it needs to be discussed.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to plus one that. So I'll give you an example from my perspective. So this is something that is true. In December 2022, my wife had a stroke, and she was taken to have brain surgery right after Christmas. And she came back home in January 2023 this year, and was diagnosed with brain cancer the very next day, the day after she came back. Brain cancer is a very bad type of cancer. Cancer is bad regardless, but
Is it a glioblastoma? Was it a glioblastoma?
Oh, so it's a grade-free anaplastic astrocytoma. Okay. So yeah, inside the brain. So my wife has not only gone through brain surgery, but also radiotherapy, and is now going through an entire year of chemotherapy. In fact, today is one of the chemo days, and tomorrow and the next day. Obviously, this is harder for her than it is for me, because, you know, it's happening to her, not to me. I'm the partner, so the family is where it comes in. The treatment is ongoing. Things could get worse, things could get better. How could either of us heal from this through healing work? But personally, I would say that I'm okay. But then again, maybe everyone would say something like that. It has been such a long and ongoing thing. I have seen other patients die from it. The last meeting we went to, actually, one of the cancer patients didn't come because he died a few days before. But I have talked about this openly the entire time with everyone. And when a few people have asked me, why don't you go see a therapist or something like that? And I just tell them, well, talking to people is therapy. So I'm being completely honest. I deal with things very, very well. I handle things very well. So I'm at least saying that it's okay for me. Maybe other people say a similar thing to what I'm saying, but don't really mean it that way, or they hide it. So I don't know much about healing work, and that is something that is complicated. And just to extend this a little bit more, I think Dan was telling me a few weeks ago, one of his clients had serial killer parents, both his mother and his father, and they would kidnap people from the street and do something in the front room. Yeah, so this stuff really does affect everyone in different ways. Like, I don't have serial killer parents myself, but you know, that's an extreme case. But there you go. How does healing work? I don't know what question I should ask.
I can suggest one thing. I'm just going to speak from my own experience. So 2006, my mother was dying of liver cancer. I love my parents very much to this day. It was a terrible death. And at that time, I had discovered my meditation teacher. And he said something very interesting. He said, you don't meditate not to suffer. You meditate to suffer more efficiently and to have a good relationship with it. And so through the years, I do my daily practice. If I skip a day, I'm not so good. If I skip 2 days, I'm out of it. So I just can only speak for me. My practice got me through my mother's death. It got me through my father's death. It got me through a horrible business divorce. It got me through a 5-year battle with the IRS that gave me a heart attack, but it got me through the recovery of the heart attack. It's gotten me through breakups. I've come to sort of embrace the Buddhist teaching that life is interwoven with suffering. And so it's not a panacea, but it's helped me. And also I've done some pretty interesting things with hypnosis, but also having a compassionate community. I want to give a shout out to all of my brothers here on this for helping men to come together and have community, because we're all so isolated. So each and every one of you, I mean it, to the extent that you're helping men come together and have a community of support, because we don't have it. If a woman has a problem or a breakup, her girlfriends surround her. We as men are isolated. So all those things are really important. And I want to acknowledge the other people on the panel for providing that. And I have to pee. I mean, no disrespect. The coffee was a bad idea. So I'm going to turn. But first, I want to receive their answers. So I'll hold it for another 10 minutes. And
sure. Yeah, so I've done over 1,000 hours of meditation. I started meditating in 2014, and I started learning about trauma release meditation practices in 2016. I did a meditation practice called Vipassana, which is a 10-day meditation retreat. So Vipassana was really powerful because it was a silent meditation retreat, no talking, no technology, and just very intense. Like you're meditating for like 10 to 15 hours a day, just like nonstop meditation while you're awake, like pretty much 24/7 while you're awake for 10 days straight. Now I've done that 3 times. It is one of the hardest things to possibly do. The first time I did it, I realized I had just all this unresolved trauma. I was having like flashbacks. I was having like fucking panic attacks. It was crazy. All this stuff that I didn't know was there kind of rose to the surface. And by kind of facing it, you kind of just let it go. And my major thing I learned was, it's like, as the human experience is, you're going to suffer. And suffering is mental. It is not necessarily even a physical thing. And it actually can be a physical thing. Your mental suffering can actually lead you to physical pain, which is really crazy. And so what I learned from so much meditation is that a lot of the problems we have, we think they're bigger problems than we give them credit for. And if you can just deal with them almost like by looking at the bigger picture and like look at life objectively, it doesn't affect you as much. But trauma release is very important, and something I implemented to my coaching massively. So whenever I do a coaching program, the first thing I teach is trauma release. So that's like the second thing I teach. The first thing I teach is the basics of cold approach, and then the basics of game. And I like to see the guys do game without trauma release or without meditation. And then on day 2, I'll teach them inner game and trauma release meditation. I actually have like 2 or 3 very long trauma release meditations on YouTube. If you search up Justin Marc meditation, you'll see I have an hour-long trauma release meditation from 2019. And I just found this stuff is so beneficial because, I mean, it's completely changed my life. Like things that I didn't know were there, bugging me in the back of my mind, you know, completely changed the way I see the world, changed the way I deal with relationships, changed the way I deal with people, it's changed the way I deal with business, it's changed the way I operate overall. If you just search up Justin Marc meditation, I've made like a dozen or more videos about meditation and like inner game, like trauma release just from like 7-8 years ago. It's crazy. I just Googled it. But yes, you'll see a lot of content about this. And I think this is so important. I think it's a huge thing that a lot of coaches neglect, because I don't believe you can actually solve any of your issues unless you solve what's inside first. I think it's impossible to solve what's on the outside unless you actually focus on what's on the inside. And by letting go of the past, you can actually move forward. So that's where a lot of guys make the mistake is they don't work on the inner stuff. They don't work on the inner game, whether it's doing mushroom therapy or like psilocybin therapy or, you know, traditional psychotherapy or EMDR or hypnosis or some sort of form of trauma release practice, you have to do it if you want to get to a very high level of success in life, not just with women, not just with dating, but in any area. I do believe you have to get really good at dealing with and processing things, and meditation or therapy or trauma release meditation, all these things come together and really will make the huge difference that most of the guys want to have. It's hard. It's very difficult to do so. It's really difficult to make that jump.
Congratulations on that. I'm very impressed that you've had the insight. I did my meditation retreat was not as you probably did Goenka, the 10-day thing.
Yeah,
Goenka,
that's what it was.
He's a warrior. My guy was much softer, but yeah, I also do Vipassana.
Yeah, I've done it 3 times. The 10-day retreat is absolutely brutal, but phenomenal.
I feel that some guys might kind of feel a void in their life through whatever it may be, because people are different. And then when they see the pickup community, or just the fact that they could sleep with a lot of women, they think, oh, that's going to fill the void. But then they don't really fix themselves, because even if they do get the success in sleeping with a lot of women, oh, that's nice, everyone wants that. But they're still broken. So it is a thing. Where I stand on meditation, I'm not exaggerating, I have only meditated for 1 hour in my life. One of the other founders of Game Global, Kieran, he made me meditate in public for 1 hour. I was like, man, this is I'm not sure that I don't do this stuff. Personally, I'm an ENTJ, so I see a lot of things differently. I still feel, for me, not for everyone, I can see that it benefits a lot of people, but for me personally, I see it as a waste of time for myself. But I recognize that it can be useful for others.
Okay, I have interesting story. Okay,
on like doing as much as I can, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so first thing, I live with a healer. My girlfriend is a healer, an energy healer. So like not all my guys, but like, whenever there is some like, childhood stuff, and actually lots of pickup guys, they suffer from either parents or early childhood traumas. And that's what I noticed. Like, lots of our students, they never received the true love. They don't understand. They didn't have a mother, father. There was some like, something wrong with the kind of initial relationship setup. And then of course, they accumulate traumas through rejections through their life. And, so it goes on. And so it really is like, cleaning that inside. And, we live in a very stressful, very crazy way. But meditation, okay, so this is going to go in many ways. Meditation is very good because if you look at back in the days, like our grandparents, okay, like they spend like whole day working on field, like kind of doing the stuff, kind of physical. They will come home, they will sleep full 8 hours, okay, like and that 8 hours of sleep was enough to rejuvenate the body with a new energy for the next day. Okay, today we don't sleep anymore 8 hours, where it's like and there is so much stress that 8 hours sleep cannot clean the whole body. So you need additional tools: yoga, breathing, breath work, meditation. 20 minutes of meditation equals like 4 hours of sleep. I think 2 or 4 hours of sleep, So it is beneficial. And now, like, traumas, yes, I would say more and more, I'm seeing more and more guys with traumas, with different stuff, like from previous relationships, even having lots of girls, fucked up girls will cause traumas. What I'm doing regularly, like, as a coach, I clean myself because, working with students, with clients, we accumulate because you're the sponge. You spend whole, weekend with all that it's stress. You take lots of those, you absorb lots of those energies, like, their pains, their fears when you're releasing it, like, so it really is, you need you need to know how to clean yourself from all of that. What I do, I go to Peru. I have a shaman in Peru. I go really deep in a jungle on Amazon River, and I do ayahuasca. Like I did like 3 years ago, I spent 1.5 months with 2 shamans in a village on ayahuasca ceremonies, like 1.5 months of puking everything from me. Like really, like your soul is going out. I mean, you guys, have you ever done? And I'm like, mushrooms are nothing comparing to this. This is like, ayahuasca takes you and it's like, okay, this is your ex-girlfriend. Okay, now we're gonna clean this. Puke. Take the bucket. It's going out from you. And really, really it goes out from you. I mean, it's insane. Like, it's insane. Like, how what you can do with that. It's, that medicine is like beyond anything what I have seen. Like, really, it's phenomenal. Like, and I would, like people treating cancers and stuff. It's something maybe like for your wife, like, at one point, like, I'm going to recommend you, like, one center where to go. Really, like, I mean, like opens, okay, besides that, you basically, the whole spiritual, like, world opens up. You go to your past lives, you understand your mission, why you are here. Like, you can, like, communicate with your, with the spirits, with different entities, aliens, like you name it. It's most wonderful and most horrifying 1.5 months of my life. Really, like, it's, and especially when you're going really deep, and I had things to clean, especially with all this, kind of 25 years of coaching, and like basically, but ayahuasca is like, okay, you see this guy, okay, like this guy, you remember him, okay, now take the bucket, let's clean him out, Then the girls, then ex-girlfriends, it was really like, so, I mean, even if you live amazing life, you accumulate, like you accumulate so much of stress in everyday life. Things are happening like so fast. And so, yes, especially for the coaches, especially for the young coaches, you basically, when you're working with people, you need to know how to clean yourself, like energetically, like, after dealing with them and being with them, because it's simply, that's kind of what I teach to my kind of my instructors, my coaches. Like, we have like, ways how to meditate and basically how to clean your aura, your energy from them after long day of work with clients.
No, I thought that was a bit funny because you mentioned Peru and my wife is from there. So no matter what way Peru is mentioned, I'm just like, oh yeah, fine.
Yeah, you have to try that. That's
Badboy has an incredibly good point. One of the reasons why I stopped doing this is just you get so much. Imagine if your career is 10 years, imagine 3 times that, and they're so damaged. Now I have the joy of working with 7-8 figure business people who want me to apply NLP to their sales process, and I don't need to deal with the rest of it. I've hung on the cross long enough. I have the right to come down and do my own thing. But Badboy, that's a brilliant point.
Mhm.
Like, we had cases at home, like, it's unbelievable. Like, she was working with a guy, and the guy was like super depressed with some ex-girlfriend, angry on women, like, like they cheated on him. So she was working, mistake number 1, basically, we invite him to office. She used to work during the lockdown, actually, like, basically we worked in the living room. She worked in the living room the whole sessions. I came from a gym, and just, I don't know why, I just had to fight with her. We end up arguing with fights because the energy was still in the room. And then actually, okay, we made like, kind of lots of rules. Okay, first, if it's some kind of healing session happening, like either the Zoom, like energy is there, it needs to clean up, open all the windows, clean up all the air, or really use techniques to clean up the space and energy, because it's unbelievable how powerful it is. Really. So you really need, like, I mean, if you don't clean yourself, it's gonna go into the trauma, as Ross saying, like, kind of, it's gonna happen into you. Like, so really being a coach, guys, kind of, they think really like, okay, we are kind of banging girls, making money, flying around the world, but they have no idea what's happening behind the scenes.
Now, here's the point that distills out of it that no one is thinking about. When you have sex with someone, you're picking up their traumas and you're getting their stuff all over you, which is why I think
and there's no condom for that.
I could, yes. Thank you. I love that. There's no condom for bad energy. I'm going to steal that from you, Badboy. But if you think about it, you're getting a woman's drama and trauma and all that all over you when you have intercourse. It's so promiscuity.
You have to be super careful who you sleep with today, really, like, you know, and I have seen that on ayahuasca. Sorry, interrupt. Like, yeah, like, you know, actually during the process, I realized I picked up, shamans call this kind of devil egg. Okay, it's basically trauma that goes into you and it stays there, and you start, like, you know, behaving differently, but kind of it really feels in your stomach, like, you know. And so basically they did, like, you know, cleaning, and I really remember who the girl was, because after that sex, she told me, like, do you remember you slept with a girl and you felt next morning you wanted to puke, you felt, like, you know, worse, like, you know, like, you know, it's not happy, but, like, you know, disgusting. And I was like, yes, I remember, like, and it was a kind of Ukraine something, like. And she's like, okay, now let's clean it, like, you know. So yes, it is, like, you know, you have to be super careful. Even with, you know, with lots of girls, you can get traumas. It's not beautiful, happy life, you know. So guys, be careful who you sleep with, who you share your intimate space with, who you have sex with, because it really, when you're having sex, it's, you know, it's not just sex. It's so much of energy is being transmuted, you know, and exchanged.
So
Yeah.
we gotta
Sexual
worry about
sexual
STDs
transmutation.
and STTs, sexually transmitted trauma.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
also like to say when the penis goes in, the crazy comes out. You have to be careful of that too, because once that dick goes in, her craziness, the red flags get set on fire. It's a raging forest fire. So be careful where you put that thing.
Let me contrast this with my point, because other than what Ross said with the acute trauma, and that's like what bad boy experienced, you know, acute trauma, getting shot, that's crazy, or sexual trauma. I'm on the contrast, right, where I believe, and I'm not an advocate of trauma release at all, because as a man, I don't believe you can go through life without trauma. And I believe that it's pivotal as for a man to not only, quote unquote, get his shit together, but going through all of not only my experiences, every traumatic event has been a catalyst to propel me to the destination that I needed to go through. So one of the things I look at is, like, we call it law of attraction and stuff, but I'm always very careful of it, because you say, like, I want $1 million. You don't know what's going to happen for you to get that $1 million. I know guys that I want to get an amazing girlfriend, and then they get the most traumatic event ever that catapults them to becoming the person that is attractive to get that girl. So I'm of a proponent that it's unrealistic for a man to ever expect never to have trauma. I think I'm a very big advocate for women to do trauma release, for sure. Absolutely. Because I don't think they're built with the emotional capabilities to be able to suppress stuff or utilize the trauma like men can. And so I'm on the proponent where I actually, this is going to sound weird, but I actually cause trauma within myself. So one of the things I do that I've been doing recently in the last couple of years is any fear that I have to go do, right? And so I'll give you an example. And my buddies know this. Like, I recently went snowboarding, and it doesn't seem like much of a fear. But when I was about 14, I strapped into a mountain board, like a mountain skateboard with your feet trapped in, on the White Cliffs of Dover. And I couldn't stop myself. If you know the White Cliffs of Dover, it's a freaking mountain. And I came off, I broke a couple of ribs. And so I've had that trauma there. But I knew that the only way I was going to release the trauma is go into the trauma and either kind of explode it with doing the thing that was scary, which was trapping myself in on snowboarding. Now, my buddies even knew this more. They were like, all right, yeah, you did the first couple of runs. Let's go to this run. It's a super easy run, except it was called the Machine Gun or something. Because I'm in Threadbow. Anyways, it was a black diamond. It was the hardest run you could do with this snowfield. And I went down there, and it was the only way to ever release the trauma was to even go further into it. So like it's almost like an embracing of it. So the more I've done that in my life, the more the traumas have been a blessing. Now that's hard for a lot of people to hear. And I'll give you another example. I say a great example. My mother had a stage 4 cancer, so two organs, her liver and her lungs. And it was the greatest thing that ever happened to our relationship, ever. We've never fought ever since. We used to fight every day. Never fought ever since the diagnosis. And you might be like, well, you changed the way you did it. No, it was the greatest thing that happened because it brought us closer together. Because I would have to take her to the surgeries. I would have to take her to the immunotherapy, radiation, blood transfusion stuff. Best thing that ever happened. So when I've really noticed it, I am contrary to the idea of this trauma release, other than acute, like Ross, you said, that can get really, really where you have to go to a therapist. But even that, I've known of therapy where they get them to talk about it and write about it and live it and go into it till it becomes numb. Yeah.
I'm not talking
That's
about
my 2 cents.
I'm not talking about that. And I think there may be a confusion there between a phobia and a genuine trauma. But we could go into this and cut hairs and split the hair forever. I'm just glad.
Of course.
Alrighty. Let's see where we can go with this. Yeah. Actually, yeah, Sam, I was watching your interview with Justin Waller today, and you asked him a really good question, and you mentioned a few of those phrases and words in the last few minutes. So this is perfect. It was a very good question. So for all of you guys, what has been the catalyst in your life that has truly turned you into who you are today?
If it's for me, or it's for the other guys, because I know it was a breakup. It's always usually a breakup, I feel.
This one's for everyone, but get started with a Sam, since this is inspired by your interview.
It'd be a breakup. It's like that girl that you love, the very first cut, the first cut cuts deepest. That one where you've just like emotionally tied everything to her and it's severed and you're like, oh my God. I think that's a pretty crazy one. For the other guys. Go on.
Yeah, maybe because, this is old bastards versus young whippersnappers. So I guess because you're still in your 20s, it's a matter of us older ones saying, well, you haven't got to your worst one yet. So I think you could pretty much living the worst one I'm gonna have, or one of them for sure. It can easily be worse if there's something that directly happens to me, which is more likely as life goes on. But it's funny because you say it's like the first relationship. When I think of my first relationship, I think, oh, she was obese, so I don't really care that much. I have moved on long from that, but yeah, but it's different for everyone.
Your first love. That's a better one. Yeah, your first love, that you love that girl. Because I think a lot of the time where you get traumas, you get things that unexpectedly, you haven't chose that. But with that first relationship, that first love, you chose that. You gave that vulnerability. And so that can cause a lot of trauma with the guys. They give that vulnerability, it's severed, boom, done. So usually it's the catalyst when some guys can look at it and be like, you know what, this is helping me. Every breakup I get with a client is just like, look, this will be the best thing that ever happens to your entire life. Like, this is your redemption arc. This is the villain arc that they talk about on TikTok. They have the fucking like edits too and shit. And the guy's like crying as I'm telling this. I'm like, no, bro, like in a year, they come back in a year and they're crazy. I just had a client, I literally gone back. He won his national bodybuilding competition yesterday. I talked to him a year ago. He won like all 3 titles. And he's like, yep, there's a breakup. And I usually say like it is a big catalyst, but I'd love to hear the other guys' perspectives on this.
You're not going to believe this, but because it's going to sound like a tale from a Greek myth, how horrible it was. But so when I'm 6'2", I'm trying to drop some fat with my trainer, Katie. She's cooking my meals. We're doing great. I was 6'2", and I weighed 125 pounds when I was a teenager and then going into my 20s. Totally emaciated. I was so ashamed of my body. I didn't want to look in the mirror. And so I would go to college. I went to UCLA, 25,000 drop dead gorgeous co-eds, my hormones raging, and I felt absolutely invisible. But the really hard thing was not just that, I would get dates, and then I would show up for the date, and there would be a note on the door. So sorry, I had to take my dog to the vet. If only this had not happened on the first date. I actually wound up having a scrapbook of all those rejection notes. So that rejection and that confusion for 2 years, 3 years at UCLA was horrific. But then for 2 years after, I would go back to the UCLA campus and just haunt it and trying to find anyone to talk to. I call it my lonely ghost years. So it was that kind of profound, just suffering. I remember, this is a true story. Use your ability to tell when someone's speaking from the heart. I remember walking up Bruin Walk, which was a central pathway at UCLA, screaming out loud, when am I going to solve this? And I swear to you, I heard a voice in my head saying, when you solve it for others, you'll solve it for yourself. And then I stumbled onto NLP years later, and I thought, I could quit being a paralegal and make a lot of money using this stuff. So I used it, tested it, it worked. I wound up writing a book. But for me, it was unbelievable loneliness and a tremendous amount of envy and rage. I remember being so envious and filled with spite and resentment that I saw a very handsome guy with a woman. And I thought, I want to spit acid in your face. That's how bad it was. So for me, it was that long, slow period of torturous loneliness that really inspired me to do it. And then I also believed from the time I was a very young man that I was put here for a reason, that I was not just going to eat, sleep, fuck, die, that I was here to make an impact and to change the world. I always believed it, always. So that's my story. And I want to fetch a piece of history from my safe while the other people give their answer.
Yeah, wow, that is intense, man. That is, wow, that's crazy, because I think I had a lot of anxiety personally, and I think we all had a very similar story. Like, we all had a reason that brought us to learning self-help, self-development, want to work on these social skills. For me, it was a fact that I couldn't look someone in the eyes. I would have actual panic attacks. My social anxiety, my mental disorders, like I had really bad OCD, really bad depression. And all of that was stemming from my lack of social acuity. I just felt so much anxiety. Like, I couldn't communicate effectively. And even when I wanted to communicate effectively, I just couldn't get myself to do it. And so I remember working on myself for years before I discovered anything self-help related, before I discovered the pickup community, before I discovered men's self-improvement in general. I remember just trying to figure out on my own. I remember going home every single day after school, and I wish I discovered journaling, but it's almost like I was like journaling in my head. I would just sit there and psychoanalyze every social interaction I had. And I was thinking, like, how could I do it better? But a lot of it was just coming from anxiety, coming from, what do people think of me? You know, how do people perceive me? I was just in so much fucking pain, you know, thinking about how others saw me, and how, like, it wasn't about dating, it wasn't about girls. I just wanted to have friends. I just wanted, like, not even just being invisible. I just wanted guys to be my friend and recognize I exist, let alone women, right? I was so nervous at women even looking at me, because I would have fucking panic attacks, like actual panic attacks, like mental freakouts. Like, it was horrible, to the point I like almost felt like I couldn't breathe. I would miss school, to the point where I actually became anemic from a lack of nutrition, a lack of eating, from the anxiety. So it was really bad. And by just almost just like dealing with all of it mentally on my own, without any guidance, without any resources, I eventually got to a point where I had friends, which is amazing. And I remember one of my really good friends, I'm still friends with this guy to this day. He got me into working out, into fitness, into weight training, and that changed my life. It kind of spiraled confidence, because all of a sudden I'm working out, I start feeling healthier, I start looking healthier, I start putting on muscle, and then all of a sudden I noticed, like, girls staring at me, women checking me out, you know, people paying more attention. And I was just confused, because I was not used to women even wanting to talk to me. and all of a sudden I had female friends. So I remember Googling how to talk to girls, how to pick up chicks, right? And like starting to learn the baselines of social skills. And I remember I got this really hot prom date, and on my prom night, she got really drunk and tried to make out with my friend. And dude, I had spent every fucking dollar I had on that prom night. Like, it was so fucking brutal. It was so brutal. I just remember telling myself, no more Mr. Nice Guy. You know, I have to learn social skills. I have to learn dating skills at a high level, and there's no excuse. So I just started going out every day to talk to strangers, started going out every day in the mall to talk to women, started just going out all the time, started immersing myself in learning and resources. You know, had a lot of success, it was a long time to get there. My first 3 years, I got almost no results. Then I got a girlfriend. We dated for a year. I was loyal, I was committed. And this is where things got really crazy. I don't think I've ever actually talked about this publicly. I was loyal, committed, monogamous. At the end of a relationship, she cheated on me. She fucking cheated on me. I was devastated, heartbroken, because I wanted to talk to other girls. I wanted to sleep with other girls. And I would actually stop myself from doing so. And I'm not proud of this. I was super young. I think I was like 19 years old. I had like a sex tape of us, and I sent it to her dad. I sent the video to her fucking dad. And so this is really fucked up because her dad was like Muslim, didn't know we were dating, didn't know she had a boyfriend. We were at a party one time. There was also like a video of her doing like a line of coke. And I sent it to her dad, and I let her know, I'm like, look, you know, this is what your daughter's up to. Horrible, horrible thing to do. Shouldn't have done it. I actually got arrested for revenge, like revenge nudes. Yeah, dude, it was crazy. So, yeah, so I had cops show up to my house that night at like 2 a.m. And, you know, I had like a court battle. It was actually really fucked up. I've never actually talked to, I don't think I've ever talked about this. This is very long. It's almost 10 years ago now. And so this was really my like origin story. Because imagine this, right? I went from spending every day with this girl. We're in school together. We're in college together. She's my first girlfriend, my first love, right? My family didn't like her. They didn't trust her. They didn't like her. And I remember actually getting in a literal, like, almost like pretty much like a fist fight with my dad because he just didn't like my girlfriend. He's like, there's something about her. I don't like her. I don't trust her. And I would spend every day with this girl. She kind of almost like family to me. She was like my best friend, my companion. And she ended up cheating on me. I was just in so much fucking pain. I couldn't deal with it. You know, sent nudes to her dad. That was like, I guess, like my revenge. Shouldn't have done that. Stupid mistake. Super mature. Right. And, you know, in hindsight, like I would never do something like that again. Right. But we live and we learn. I went through like a 2-year court battle. Obviously, I couldn't talk to her anymore. So I went from seeing this girl every day to not being legally allowed to talk to her, you know, because I committed a crime. Right. And I had to fucking deal with that. And it threw me on this like really hardcore, deep self-development journey where, first of all, I fucking hated the girl. And later, years down the road, I realized, you know, it was all my fault. I had to take responsibility for my actions. I wasn't a proper developed man. I was a young teenager. I was going through a lot of pain. I had a lot of fucking childhood trauma. I had a lot of family trauma. I had a lot of unresolved things I had to deal with. And I was just kind of acting out and being reactive, right? And that breakup was such a catalyst for success because quit drinking, quit jerking off. I mean, this is like fucking 8-9 years ago. Dude, I haven't jerked off since, right? No drinking. I'm years sober. No drugs, no drinking, nothing. Threw me down a path of fitness, meditation, deep self-development. And it just put me to such a high level of, because there was so much pain associated with it, with that whole experience, that I knew that there was no way I could ever allow something like that ever again to happen. That the only clear solution was immense self-development, journaling, affirmations, fitness, meditation, networking, travel, and just putting my best self out there. And I even coached, mentored, and trained. I don't know how much money I've spent on coaches, courses, mentors, guidance, but probably like at least $500,000 US the last 10 years.
Wow.
Like every dollar I've fucking made, I would just reinvest into coaches, mentors. And it got me to a point where at 27 years old, I'm a millionaire. I'm super successful. I've coached thousands of guys, and I've had immense dating success because I've just been surrounded with such high levels of like almost militant levels of high level decision making and deep thought behind every action I take, because I had that background of impulsive decision making, as well as just immense self-development work and high-level coaches. So I've just gotten coached by so many different people. I have such a high-level counsel of people who I go to for advice or mentorship or guidance, even today. And it's allowed me to become a very effective coach because I went through so much pain, in my first few years of, learning and practicing social skills. So it's very tough origin story. And I think this is actually the first time I've ever talked about this publicly. I've never actually talked about this online. So I'm glad to be able to share that with you guys.
Justin, this is the second time you have incriminated yourself, 2 episodes in a row, and this is our second episode. If you keep this up as your lawyer, I'm going to have to advise you to shut your mouth on the next episode. This is only getting worse. Okay, jokes aside.
I don't remember the first time. I don't remember what was the first time?
Jumping onto the TTC for free.
The
transport thing, or like something like that. Yeah.
As long as the statute of limitations is told, he's okay.
Fair enough. Damn. That was pretty deep. Dan, I think you're
okay. So you want to hear the bad story? You want to hear okay. So I mean, my journey. What changed my life? I would say the more my injury, my accident. Okay, so 1992, during the war in Croatia, ex-Yugoslavia, I was walking out on a Christmas night, watching the fireworks on my terrace in my basic, house where I grew up, looking at the star, looking at basically the beautiful fireworks and the bullet. Because people were shooting with fucking machine guns, with stuff, basically the bullet went up and down directly, hit me here between, went in the brain. I was 12 years old, coma, 2 weeks, they pulled it out, basically. So it was first grade of the high school, yeah. So I came back, I mean, I lost my whole left side of the body, hemiparesis, I was in a wheelchair for 1 year. I came back to the school, and that hit me. All my friends start kind of playing with the girls, going to the home parties, alcohol, it's kind of that age, 12, 13 years old, and I was stuck in a wheelchair. So I couldn't go anywhere. I was at home, going to rehab centers, coming back, getting my life back, trying to get it back, learning how to walk again, learning how to speak again. So hardcore reboot. And I was fuck, kind of looking at all of them, making out with those girls, that, actually they were all into me, before, accident, I was I wasn't popular in a school, but I was going about to be there. And so that killed me. I couldn't leave the house, I was on a computer. I was spending, I lost 2-3 years of my life, of my development, because I was with parents at home watching TV. I wasn't socializing, with kids playing around. And so I was fuck, I need to do something about it, because I saw where the life is going. I saw it's one-way direction. And I decided, no, I'm not gonna live that life. I'm not gonna live that life as a disabled, and they're gonna, the social security will take care of you, they're gonna find you some job, maybe you're never gonna have some, I saw that movie in my head so many times. I was no, that's not going to happen. I choose other life. And I started working on myself, humor, confidence, start talking with girls. I was at the point, I was I don't think anyone, maybe Ross here, was as crazy as I was for this. I was ready to die. I was you know what? I'm gonna have a girlfriend. If I have to fucking die for it, to learn this, I'll fucking die for it. I was ready to die for this shit. Guys, this is not, you cannot understand that level of dedication of the game. I bought myself a voice recorder with the last money I had, kind of some conference back in the days, 1998, probably Ross remembers those kind of old first Olympus, like, you know, kind of recorders. I was going out recording all the conversations I had with girls, coming home, retyping on computer, printing them on the floor of my living room and analyzing, like trying to find the pattern. Here I said this, here I said that, like here it worked. You know, I was obsessed with this to the level that, you know, I never met anyone like on this level. Like, you know, I was insane. Like, you know, I'm gonna figure this shit out. I remember, so my breaking point was, so I walked with a heavy limp because they taught me it was like in a whole you know, it was, you know, when there's a war, they are just patching up people and okay, go home. Like, you know, so there is no really kind of proper rehab. So they just kind of, you know, they get you back to the life somehow and, you know, kind of move on. Don't go back to the hospital, you know. So, there was not really like, you know, good attention to it because like, you know, people were dying, you know, lots of new people, you know, injured people coming in the hospital. So, you know, you had like, so I didn't have like, you know, therapist, what you guys said, like, you know, kind of shrinks. I was like my own coach, my own shrink, my own therapist. I like, you know, I was like, I will figure this shit out. You know, it's my brain, it's my body. I'm gonna, you know, I will do whatever I have to. So I walked with a really, you know, I managed to kind of get back walking. So I walked with a really bad limp. I remember like my first club experience. I was walking with a stick. I approached a girl. She was in a disgust, like, you know, what the fuck is this kind of, you know, creep coming to me, like, you know, speaking to me, like, you know, and, you know, that, you know, when you see that facial expression, you know, your heart gets broken, you know, you're like, you know, to the millions of pieces, like, you know. But then somehow I realized, wait, she doesn't like me, but I can change with the conversation, with the whole, like, you know, doing the stuff. I can change her perception of me. I can make her to like me. And that was revelation. That was for me, like, you know, fuck. I control what she thinks about me. I control, will she like me or not like me? It's in my hand. Who will like me, when the attraction will be triggered, when it's not going to be triggered. It's me. It's not like, you know, on their like decision, like, you know. So I went through really, I'm like, you know, I mean, you know, most people like usually now, like, you know, I'm talking with people that have traumas from this, from that. Mother didn't get him the love. I was like, fuck, you know, it's like, I mean, I don't feel, I really feel like I had like a happy childhood, like, you know, with all of that. And I think like I made, you know, I really like went crazy on this and managed to solve all my problems with, I don't know how, really, like, you know, with working on myself. No books, no, but it was back in the days, no internet. You also remember those days, like, you know, there was nothing. It was kind of you and you deal with your shit and, you know, move on.
There was no seduction community. There was no one.
There was nothing, yeah.
I had to teach. I had to come up with it. By the way, I grabbed a piece of history. The whole worldwide pickup and seduction community started with this. This was my first book. We glued it. I would hand them to my mother. She would stick them in the envelopes, address them, and we mail them out. That's it. This is how the whole seduction community got started. That. See the copyright? Can you see it? 1989.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Damn. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Holy
guys, by the way, I have to jump off. Like I like actually two beautiful girls waiting me in a bedroom. So, you know, it's time.
Life sucks.
Life sucks.
It's a midnight here. So pleasure, all of you, Rose, guys. See you. Enjoy. Have a great conversation. Bye.
Thanks. Right when we were getting into the juicy life sob stories, I might as well share a little bit of myself since I was asking this question. I don't think there's maybe something that propelled me forward because I have always, like I kind of said before, I'm an ENTJ. I've always been focused on just moving forward in my life in whatever way I can. However, when I was very young, can't remember how old exactly, but how old would it have been? Maybe like 7 or something. my own best friend pushed me off of a height and I fell onto my back. I can't remember much about it, and I can't remember much of my life before, but I was taken to hospital and a spinal injury basically. But the hospital was after a few hours, you're okay, just go home. And I've been living with neck trouble, spinal problems ever since. And I avoided hospitals ever since I was that young, because I always saw them as kind of useless. They didn't want to help me, that kind of thing. So I always like to stay away from hospitals. When I was ill, I never took medicine. I was like, I'll write it out. That this is what the body is designed for. So I'm just that kind of guy where I maybe until in the last 1 or 2 years, I didn't take hospitals seriously at all because of waiting times and my personal experience. But after that, maybe when I was 10 or something, there was a freak accident and I ended up being hanged, not by myself, but by someone else. And I don't really find that to be like a traumatizing experience. I was okay. It could have killed me, but I have survived quite a few things. But because of these things happening when I was very young, I never really thought about them much. Like the neck thing from a few years before that, where I was pushed off, that was more of what I was thinking about because whenever if you wouldn't have seen this if you're watching this video, but the guys who are here with me, because we're on Zoom, you can only see one person speaking at a time at the moment. But off screen, I was messing around with my neck. I have to do that every single day because if I don't, my neck becomes stiff and I can effectively not be able to move for quite a few hours. It happens every few years or something where there's a bad case. Now, listen, I really don't think of these personal things of myself too seriously. I don't think they're that dark. It's just a natural thing. But the thing I do find dark is the stuff that happened recently to my wife, because I have always considered my brain to be my biggest asset because my IQ is extremely high. Not to be big-headed about it, thanks for the joke, but the very nature of brain cancer and brain surgery is pretty scary to me, because I imagine if that was myself, because you can take away your arms, your legs, yeah, that's pretty scary too, but really the human is just a brain and the central nervous system, something like that. It's debatable, I know. But I really believe that my brain is my greatest asset. So the very fact that this happened next to me could have been me, but that's not how it works. Is something like, yeah, I don't know. If it happened to me, I would be really upset because my brain is extremely precious to me. It's my greatest asset. And yeah, I guess that's all I can say. I don't really do meditation or anything like that. But if we're talking about what propelled me forward, my personality type has always done that for me. However, with what has happened to my wife, when she was having brain surgery for 8 hours, 8 to 12 hours roughly awake, which is also quite horrifying for me to imagine, I was like, okay, I have to do something. I have a YouTube channel, I have a website, I have this whole massive community. I need to take things more seriously. And I think that day, or maybe the next day, a very close time, I interviewed Rollo Tomasi. And from that moment, I made the decision to have one of my wife's shoes in the background of a lot of my videos, just as a new tradition and kind of, I don't know, just to remember her, what was happening at that point. And since then, that was the end of December 2022. Since then, I have really took YouTube way more seriously. And as a result, I now have way more views. I just got 100,000 more views in the last 13 days. So things have been going completely insane. And really, it started with me interviewing guys like Ross Jeffries 5 years ago and a select ever few guys. There we go. And I must have done like 2 or 3 videos a year back then. So that's the crazy thing. But now I'm releasing videos at least twice a week, normal videos and YouTube shorts at least once every single day. So for me, that the thing that really drove me forward, or I guess it's a little bit biased because it's happening now, is what has happened to my wife and the fact that it's ongoing. And that really encouraged me to, okay, let's do more, basically. That's just how my mind is. But let's we've talked a lot about like trauma and stuff like that. So maybe let's get a bit closer to kind of community or gamey stuff. Here's a little bit of classic, but this is quite popular. The word alpha is thrown around a lot these days. Are you guys also tired of seeing this shit? I gotta turn the gallery view on. You just gotta see Ross face palming himself really hard there. Yeah, I know. First question I asked was like, aren't you tired of a lot of these things? And personally, the alpha thing, man, why are you acting so beta? And man, you just gotta be alpha and stuff like that. Yeah, man, I'm a fucking alpha. Like, the fuck are these guys talking about? Seriously. I don't know. What are your views on this?
May I start this pontification? First of all, the guy who came up with the term alpha was studying wolves, and he retracted his study. That's the first thing. But more importantly, true, you look it up. I saw the best little thing on Instagram. I subscribe to a lot of the motivational things on Instagram. And the woman was saying, when I met my husband, he said to me, I am not an alpha male. I'm a masculine male. And he listed out the qualities of that. He said, but you women will step right over us. See, we're not going to jump around and make a lot of puffery. We'll just stand there behind the alphas, waiting for them to burn themselves out. And then we step forward. But you women, because of all the things you've seen on TV and movies and media, will step over us to get to the alpha. So whenever I hear these terms like alpha male, I say, first thing I say is, as defined by whom, as measured by what? It's just like, to me, it's a very loosely defined term. I tend instead to think of just a guy who's got his shit together, but more importantly, you know your vision, you know your values, you know your boundaries, you're emotionally well-regulated, emotional regulation, and you know how to communicate in a way that's effective without being destructive to yourself or the other person. All this stuff about being a leader of men or having to be charismatic, that's nice. I've been told over and over and over, I have charisma. That's nice, but I don't think it's necessary. So I think the whole alpha male thing of being the loudest person and taking up space, sitting with your legs sprawled. Oh, you can see my old man hernia. Legs sprawled and all that other stuff. And it's bullshit. I have to pee again. Sorry, guys. Prostate.
All right.
I'm all,
Go ahead.
Where's my nurse? Where's my nurse?
Ross Jeffries, everyone. There we go. The rise and the fall of Ross Jeffries. He's maybe he's still hearing us. What was I gonna say? Yeah, it's like this weird new obsession. That my personal view. Like every year there's this new thing. It's like when there's black pill, you gotta look like a fucking plastic asshole to only then will you get women and stuff like that. Man, you can't fix everything by by chewing gum into your jaw looks completely unnatural. I don't know, stuff like that. Like, yes, improve the things that you believe need improving. I'm a big believer of personality and competence and things like that, but this whole alpha thing as well. And then there's this third view where it's like, I don't want to be alpha, that's too macho. And then there's like, oh, we're gonna be sigma instead because it's more cool. And I'm like, man, you're all just fucking nerds. And the people who were talking about this are not what they're actually talking about. So clearly there is something completely stupid going on. That's all I can say.
100%. Everyone just wants to label something. That's how over the years, label. Let's just take the label of misogyny. You'll see a TikTok and a girl can't even like get the definition of it correct, not alone even just the first word. Right. So I think as humans, we love to label stuff. And in a sense, 10 years ago, we were probably arguing about some other point that we didn't believe in. And now it's come all full circle. So I think it's like it's what the cool thing is right now, right? The cool thing to talk about and this and that. Look, does it have, again, everything that is triggering has some sort of hint of truth or some sort of hint of something that you either don't agree with or do agree with. Can men become more masculine in today's society? Yes. Is that something that they should do? Yes. What's the whole media trying to tell you? Not to do that. So I think in a little point, I'm like, I agree with you guys. I'm like, yeah, it's all bullshit, this and that. But if it's talking about it, man, I'm for shit that's talking about it. I'm like, at least if it starts one guy on his journey, is it so wrong? Is it so bad? Now you can say, well, it's doing more harm than good. Yes. So I think it's kind of like a hard thing. We just like, as humans, we love to label stuff so that we can grasp the understanding of it. But I think right now it's got to the point where no one actually understands, or no one can understand, because there's so many different views on it.
I think Russ was saying earlier, maybe an hour ago, something about when people were traumatized, they were associating to different things, like being masculine. What maybe it was maybe it was
dominant
Ross
versus abusive.
Yeah, it's like
dominant.
Yeah. So dominance and abuse all these associations getting mixed up. So yeah, not sure quite the point I'm trying to make, but people kind of making these labels and then associating their own experiences to them. I don't know. Well, there's that. Maybe let's move on. So here's an annoying classic, another annoying one, but potentially useful actually. So I see this question quite a lot, and there's no way you guys have never heard this question before. Should guys approach women in the gym? Or it's not a matter of should, but they want to know how to do it, actually. There are so many guys asking questions about trying to game at the gym, and it seems like a very sketchy topic that people disagree over. So what are your views on that? And if you think it is okay, what would you recommend?
Yeah, personally, I never like the idea of approaching a woman in the gym because it's like you're there to work out. It's not really a social area unless you have like I go to this really nice gym. It's almost like a members club, so it actually would be appropriate to socialize there because there's like social areas. But I think in the average gym for the average person, the gym's not really a social venue. And I think the reason a lot of guys ask about approaching women in the gym, it's because that's like the only time they get out of the house. They go to the gym. There's girls there. Right. But here's the thing, like go to the club, go to the bar, go to an area where you're going to meet hot girls. And typically I think women in the gym don't really want to get approached. They are focusing on the workout. They're sweaty. They're not feeling their best self. Right. And so there's a lot. Yeah. They have their earphones in or whatever. Like they don't necessarily want to get approached. But there is a way to do it. I mean, if you want to do it, it's kind of like a giant social circle because you're going to go back there and you're going to see the same people over and over and over again. And like, imagine this, right? Imagine you like run around mass approaching chicks in the gym your first day at the new gym. And then you go there the next day, you see the same girls and they all reject you. You're like, oh shit, the same fucking girls. You're going to have to cancel your gym membership and switch gyms, right? You don't want to do that. So you don't want to be the guy running like keyway routines in the gym. But what you could do is, I mean, you can be friendly, you can be social, you can be like not gamey, but just be like a chill guy. And like let it happen kind of organically. Like maybe like put a little bit of intention there and try a little bit just to be like social. There's very subtle ways to do it, like in between your workouts and stuff like that. Kind of like more body language versus like actually communicating, right? Kind of just being like so I have a buddy, right? His name's Paul. Dude is Special Forces, U.S. military, super fucking jacked, like absolute tank, right? And I like the way he described it because since he's such a big dude, since he's such like he kind of like is at the top of the dominance hierarchy in the gym because he's such a fucking big dude. It's kind of very simple for him to just go in there, crush workout, and then just be like, yeah. And you see a girl like staring at you, and you're like, give her a head nod, right? And so you kind of do that, but I just don't think the gym is the most effective place to run game unless it's like a members club or like a more like social venue. Because again, like I do go to a gym where it would be appropriate for me to talk to girls, right? Because it's like there's like a bowling alley, a restaurant, a bar, it's like all this other cool stuff. And I'll see girls I know at the gym and I'll talk to them. It's really cool. It's a nice gym. But it's very expensive too. It's very like high end, like top 1% type people. But for the average guy, it doesn't really make sense to run game in the gym. Like you're better off just like go to a nightclub and actually learn social skills at a high level, and then go to a bar, go to nighttime social venues, go where the hot women are, the hot, young, feminine, single women, go where they hang out.
I was going to say, like, when you go to the gym, people are wearing headphones and earphones. And when you go to a nightclub, nobody's wearing headphones or earphones because
But no one
the
can
fuck's
hear
gonna
you.
play?
But
Exactly.
no one can hear you either because there's so much noise, which is why I tell my this is self-admitted my system, because it does rely on the power of suggestion and language intonations and embedded commands. You can't do it in a noisy environment. You just can't do it. So that's one of the limitations. But the other thing about charging in the gym, gaming in the gym, is you're very likely, if you're lucky, you'll get kicked out. If you're unlucky, you get your ass beat and then kicked out, because that's the last you want. Here comes my cat Neka. This is one pussy that cannot be tamed and bosses me around. Neka, daddy's on the air. She doesn't care. She's been known to hang up calls and multi-$1,000 clients. That's just what she does.
Classic.
Did you hear the meow?
No. Oh yeah, Sam. Anything?
Yeah, I think Justin hit the mark. Right there. Justin hit the mark. That's a really good thing. I like that. A bit witty there. Yeah, if you're in the US and you're at Equinox and you got the sauna. Say I'm a big proponent in my gyms. I've got to have a sauna or a chill out place because I'll go work there. I'll go to the sauna, and that's one of the best places that I do. I talk to a lot of people in the sauna because I do it because it makes the time go faster. It's really, really easy. You can start up conversations. Again, if you get to know the managers of the gyms, the people that are scanning you in, people that make your protein shakes. I approach most days in the gym, but when I'm getting a protein, I'll be talking to the girl. I'll be like, oh, have you tried that one? Have you tried the chocolate shake? Then add that. I'll be like, oh, I've seen you around. I'll get to know her name a little bit. But it's not like, oh, she's doing a fucking deadlift. Let me go up there and full on, hey girl, what's going on? Like none of that. It's more situationally opened. Some people have gone, I'll use the water fountain. I stick away from that now because I think girls are a bit more perceptive of that. And one of the things too is like at least once a week, I don't wear my headphones at all. I find Goggins got me onto that. It's like really embracing the workout. And what I found is that it's more easy to lock eyes and just as Justin said, give a head nod. And you'll find that over a little bit of time, you can build that social capital up there. You'll say hello. So I'll go like there, or I'll do a fist bump. I'm like, oh, what you're working on today? I'll say like, fuck, legs is fucking hard today. something like that. You know, those little 2-1 lines, but it's not full approaches. It's not direct at all. It's all situational and observational, very low investment. And most of the times, because my type of girl is a gym girl, so I'll be like, damn, like, you know, this is where, I like it the most. So I will do those kind of things. But if you were looking like, if a guy's like, all right, what's your success rate in the gym? I'm like, nah, bro. Like, just be a cool motherfucker, dude. Just go lift, go get some weights,
I've
interact
had
with some people.
to bang their personal trainers.
Yeah, man. Well, it happens. These girls be getting this 25-year-old, 24-year-old personal trainer that's jacked. Shit flies. He's bossing her around. It's one thing to another.
I think at that point it's kind of like there's a lot of competition in terms of muscle, but aside from that aspect, funny you were mentioning sauna actually, because I went to there's probably only a few gyms I have ever been to in my life, but I think the first one I ever went to or really went to, there was a sauna there, a swimming pool, hot tub, all that fancy shit that I wasn't so used to, and it was a pretty expensive one. I would eventually get bored of actually doing the work and just hang out in the sauna area, and that's where the conversations would happen. And there was a really nice guy just having a conversation with pretty much everyone who would ever go in there. And I was like, oh, he seems pretty cool. And he was talking to a foreign woman who was pretty attractive. I was like, oh, I think he's gonna pick her up. And I'm just sitting there opposite. And then she leaves, and then he talks to me, and we have this deep conversation. And then he'd said to me towards the end, I want to suck your dick. And I was like, what the fuck did I just want to? And then I stopped going to the gym because I was like, holy shit, I'm attracting the wrong gender here. That was pretty crazy. He invited me to the disabled bathroom. I was just like, yeah, I'm not fucking coming here anymore. But back to the point, I absolutely agree, because it's like, oh yeah, what you were saying, like what's the success rate at the gym, man? Like as my advice in terms of wherever you may be is just be social. So when it comes to something like the gym, or especially a workplace, it's not the kind of place you want to burn to the ground and go crazy doing routines or whatever it may be, or these pickup lines, stuff like that. When you are I have a separate video specifically tailored for coworkers, by the way. If you're looking for that, go check that video out. But where it comes to the gym, you just need to relax and not shit everywhere and just be normal, basically, and stop being so obsessed with, oh my god, but she's got a great ass, she worked. Yes, it's a great place to meet women who are doing squats and all the beautiful stuff that goes on. However, it's not something you want to ruin. And the way you should go about this is to just genuinely socialize and just be social instead of just going fucking crazy about this. So that's all I'm gonna say. But then again, I stopped going to the gym ever since that gay guy invited me to a disabled bathroom. So that's my take.
Check out these guns, 65.
Damn, 65 years old.
Been working with my trainer, Katie, 5 years now. She's coming over today, and we're going to hang and bang and get these pythons even bigger. And I want to say to all you youngsters out there watching, you just wait till you're 65 and all the Rosso maniacs are still out there running circles around you.
Alrighty. Let's jump on to another thing. So this is a question I only got a few hours ago from someone, but fuck it. Is game fundamentally about breaking out of poor habits?
No question.
Not for me.
I like it. I like your question.
I have
Sorry, Ross,
I have,
you go ahead.
yeah, I have a completely different take. Look, for me, game is seduction, and seduction is about creating. I always tell my students, stop thinking about the behaviors you want. How do I go in for the kiss? How do I get her to come back to my place? How do I get her to go out with me? How do I approach? No. Think of what states of consciousness, what states of emotion do you want her to be in? How do I get her to become fascinated with me? How do I get her to feel a deep connection with me? How do I get her to feel aroused? How do I get her to feel, if I don't take action on this, it's going to go away? And I say this, if you are not using the power of language and the power of suggestion in your toolkit, in your arsenal, you're leaving a lot of power behind you. You're leaving it on the table. I can do extraordinary things. My last girlfriend, I just broke up with her, was 29. I'm 65. I didn't do it. I don't do it in my looks. You can see there's not a lot of money on display here, but you can do a hell of a lot with language. Can I give you an example?
Yeah, go for it.
So most guys, they'd start a conversation. They'd say, what do you like to do for fun? Which is a stupid conversation. First of all, everyone asks that question. But second, all it does is elicit a factual answer. I want to ask a question that's going to require her, I almost said forced, require her to dive down into her subconscious mind, into her imagination, trigger her fantasy mechanisms, get her visualizing, get her feeling, flows of feeling in the body. So instead of asking, what do you like to do for fun? And I'll say it, you have to say it in the right tonality. You can't be, now listen to me, you will go into trance. That's bullshit. But I'll ask this question. I'll say, when you want to do something that makes you feel totally alive and get your heart beating hard and time flies by, what do you love to do? Or what's something you've always dreamed of doing, but you haven't let yourself dare? And then I'll shut up. Those two questions, they may sound similar. One gets a factual answer. One elicits the fantasy mechanism. And then I let her go. And as she's going, she's going to give me nonverbal cues. She's going to give me facial expressions. She's going to give me anchors I can grab onto. If you are not using language, even in the way you structure your questions, I'm not saying you better get your life together, get your health, finances, the rest of that shit together. And if you're not exquisitely good at using language to communicate to the subconscious, the unconscious mind, you're just leaving a lot of power on the table. I just wanted to give you that one little brief, or just a simpler example, even simpler example. Instead of saying, how did you get started as a personal trainer? I would ask, wow, what does it take to be good at what you do? That requires her to dive deep down and begin to think of her values and her motivations for doing it. I don't say, why do you do it? I said, what does it take to be good at what you do? And then when she tells me it, I'll develop the answer. I'll say, really, what's your favorite part of that? Not an interrogation. I'm not interrogating her. You have to listen to my tone. So that's just all I want to put out on the table. That for me, it really is about, number one, how you show up. But number two, thinking, what states of consciousness, what flows of emotion in her body do I want her to feel? Now, I teach these language patterns to do it. They've been exaggerated, and people have said, oh, you're teaching hypnosis. And my response is, well, everything that's powerful has a hypnotic element to it. I'm not making someone go to sleep, and while they're asleep, molesting them. But I'm saying I'm communicating in a way that's evoking subconscious or unconscious responses. That's a huge part of what speed seduction is about. And I'm saying if you leave it off the table, you're missing a lot of power. That's my only contribution to this whole discussion.
That's great. Yeah. Hey guys, I got to bounce out, but it was great to connect with you guys. It's good to see you, man. And Ross,
I want to
amazing
talk to
insights.
you. I want to
Sure.
talk to you. You got to get an introduction because you're a fascinating dude.
Awesome. Man. Do you, where do you connect? Where do you want to connect?
Let's do it through an email. Can you do an email introduction?
Yeah,
Mr.
I'll do that. I'll do that.
Sure.
Definitely want to talk to you.
Awesome. Sounds good, Ross. Let's keep in touch.
Peace.
See you,
Okay.
boss.
All right, guys, take care. See you.
Thanks. Noted. There we go. And we're down to, let's go on gallery so you can see all of us. We're down to the final young Ling and the old bastard himself. And then there's me, just the redneck that's somewhere in the middle.
The old bastard. Oh, you made my whole weekend.
So it's a little bit strange because Sam looks like me, but then again, Russ is a Jew and I'm a Jew, so I'm like exactly in the middle somewhere. I don't know.
I was just thinking you could be an Orthodox rabbi. That was my first thought when I saw you today. Put a kippah on him, and you could be a rabbi.
You know, actually, one of my ancestors was a chief rabbi.
Where?
Of a European country in like the 1800s. I don't know, something. Yeah, it gets a bit hard tracing the ancestry because it's like it's very hidden when it comes to before the Holocaust and everything like that. Yeah, because the surnames change. But anyway, yeah. Were there any other comments before we move on to the next thing?
Yeah, I think what's interesting with what Ross said is like, I'll put it to a question of Ross. What the language pattern that you learned, was that something you learned or something you stopped doing? So you stopped talking factually, or did you learn how to become more emotional in your communication, your conversation skills?
Both. It's not, or it's both. And so my influence again is neurolinguistic programming. NLP has something called the Milton model and the meta model. I don't want to get too much into NLP. The meta model is learning to get clients to become more specific. So if a client, I have approach anxiety, I'll say, really, that's interesting. What do you mean by that? And I'll say, really, and what does that look like? But the meta model, the Milton model, is being vague and learning to suggestions. So I was influenced by learning the Milton model. Milton Erickson was the father of modern hypnotherapy. He was to hypnosis what Einstein was to physics, or what Beethoven was to music. And so I was influenced a lot by that. That's why I took a lot of my language patterns or learned to create them. And so you have to do both. I think guys make the following 3 conversational mistakes with women. Number 1, they talk about themselves. So this is where I diverge completely from telling stories that demonstrate higher value. Like, nah, you're talking about yourself. Number 2, they interrogate the woman. It's not a conversation or a give and take. It's really, where'd you go to school and what'd you study and why'd you do that? Blah, 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 blah. And the third thing is to have data-based conversations. Instead of describing the lush vacation they went on and the feeling of walking into the crystal clear water, they talk about what airline they took and what hotel they stayed at and how they got a great deal on Kayak or Priceline.com. So my whole thing is to teach my students to actually become a lot more emotionally aware, because yeah, you can parrot what I say, and thousands of guys are still getting laid on my Discovery Channel pattern that I came up with in 1994, actually watching the Discovery Channel. It's a true pattern. It's based on something that really happened. So this is just my message: learning to use language with deliberation to engineer emotional states in women, not just in women, but I teach just now the sales. I work with 7- and 8-figure companies that actually sell coaching programs online. I don't know if you've heard of a guy named Caleb Jones, Alpha 2.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it rings a bell.
I took Caleb's team and I rewrote their scripts using NLP and some of their. I upped his results nearly by 600% in 90 days. So that's what I do. My point being, this maps over into sales. Any kind of influence or persuasion, it's powerful tool set.
100%. So going on an ice question, I don't know whether it's you learn something or you get rid of something. I think it's a bit of both. I think you learn how to develop your skill, your personality, and then you also learn how to let go of the bull crap that you've been taught or you've stumbled upon.
Alrighty. Let's pick a question here. Let's see.
It's
Let,
getting
let's
light.
huh?
Australia it appears to be getting lighter. What time is it there in Australia?
It's 8 o'clock in the morning, Ross.
Okay, because it looks to me like there's some light beginning to
Probably. Yeah, I would say that.
The way I can see it, it's coming from the bottom. I could see some red. I think the way it works in Australia is because it's upside down. It comes from the top, but to them, it's showing up to me as the bottom. I don't know.
That's what happens. Yeah, absolutely. Apparently, right now it's getting a bit lighter.
I just
Dedication though coming up very early, but
There you go.
here's an easy one. How do you deal with haters?
Oh, that's a good question. Depends. Ice, is it in online or in person?
Oh, let's go for anything and everything.
Okay. Online's is easy because like if you want attention and you want clicks and you want leads and you want people and you want girls to be emotionally triggered and this and that, you need haters. The polarity of the universe says that if you want people to love you, you got to have people that hate you. And again, with the algorithm, you want people to hate you. Like I remember back in the day, we used to, and I still do this to today. I comment harvest. So basically, I get people to my friends, and I get people and other accounts that I have to jump onto my posts. And especially, I was doing this with a lot of e-commerce, and e-commerce is a really good thing to be able to do this. You have a dog toy, where you have like you're selling a dog toy, and then you get one of your accounts to be like, that dog's fucking ugly. Right, that's what you do, right? And so you'd have this flood of now people that are just commenting, oh no, that dog's not ugly, my dog's not ugly, put a picture of your dog, so you'd content harvest, because you know that that's what the algorithm works. So anytime you're getting hate, it's actually not only the person's watching the video once, they're watching it 2, 3, 4 times. It's like single-handedly the best thing to grow your online presence is through hate. Now, to an extent, because you can't tip it too far. Now, in person is a little bit of a different thing. I'm interested because I had a lot of friends when I joined RSD. I had all my high school friends, all the friends that I made, completely drop me, completely didn't want to talk to me. And I don't know whether it was because I was a coach or I was such a different person, but I lost 20, 30, 40 friends overnight, real quick. And I look back at that stage, and nothing in your life is happening, I believe, just by chance or coincidence. I think it has a deeper meaning and an underlying message, and that's what kind of led to my teachings of like, okay, build social skills. How do you build social circles? How do you network with the best people in the world? How do you develop this attractive personality? So within that, I think one of the hate that you get is you can create a cookie jar that David Goggins says. And I have a cookie jar where it's like all the most hateful comments I've ever got. And I look back at it, it's such a motivation. I look back and I'm like, yeah, let's get. And so if you want to see red for the day and your workouts are better and everything is just so much more on point when okay, these people don't want me to succeed. It's like I want to prove them wrong. I'm not a victim. I've never ever since like probably 2013 I've ever looked at myself as a victim. It's always for my benefit. Love, hate, anything like that, always for my benefit, always for my benefit. I was like, I don't know what it might be, but I know that, when I've looked at this and I've looked at things in my life, especially people like haters, and I'll get haters left, right, and center. I'm in Sydney. Sydney's a very small town. Everyone thinks it's a huge city. No, it's very small. Every city I go to is a very small town, especially when you're playing at the top echelon. And so when you'll get haters, it's good. You're pushing buttons. You're doing the right thing when you're getting haters. If you're not getting hate, you're not doing it correctly. And so now you got to flip your whole paradigm, reframe your whole mind. If I'm not getting hate, if I'm not pushing those buttons, those emotional triggers that people are getting, then I'm not actually impacting anybody. And so I reframe my mind massively on these concepts.
pushing buttons, getting people deliberately pissed off to get attention. Wow. Wow. You should play that if you could pull that up and just screen share it. No, that thing has gone so fucking viral. It's the Jane Whitney show. I have friends I haven't spoken to in years who message me on Facebook going, have you seen this? Yeah, I've seen it. But that's how I started my career, is getting on there with a few sound bites a few sound bites. I would tell them, the producers, and it's, we want to fly you out. For instance, I would say things like I said in the Jane Whitney show, I want to put women up on a pedestal so I can look up their skirts. Your question was about fear, and I want to address this. A couple of different things. First of all, fear depends on the cognitive frame you hold. One of the things I've said to students that snaps them out of it like that, they say, I have approach anxiety. I say, no, you don't. You have opportunity. You have opportunity hesitation. You don't have approach anxiety. You have opportunity hesitation. And the minute I swear to go, he abandoned me. The minute you say that and you get them to take on that frame, suddenly they're going, oh, my frame is no longer, I'm trying to get something from her. I'm the opportunity that I'm extending to her to meet me and pick up my energy and enjoy herself. Did you hear my answer, Ice? It was brilliant.
Could you repeat that again for me?
Yeah, I teach my students when they tell me and they say, I have approach anxiety. I'll say, no, you have opportunity hesitation. And that's it's a really great reframe. And I'll say, really, approach anxiety. Is that like oil in your car? How much do you have? Where is it? I say in my seminars, who here wants more confidence with women? And every hand would go up. I'd say, I have a 10-liter jug of it up in my room. I'm going to, it's only $10 a liter. I'll screw a hole in the top of your head and pour it in with a funnel. Who wants to do that? And all the hands went down, meaning it's not a thing. Fear is not a thing. You have a body. It's a series of neurological responses, cognitive elements, et cetera, et cetera. And so if you pull them apart and address each one, then you can have a lot more power. You can convert it into something else. The only thing I fear, really, at my age, is I don't feel dying because I'm closer to it. I fear being crippled, being not able to have my faculties, although that's going to come sooner or later. And I don't fear it, but I'm very adverse to not living my full potential. I've already lived a tremendous amount of potential, but I intend to continue to do it and do it more and more and more and more. And
I remember.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I remember you said you had this hate mail email thing and you would collect.
No, even better. We used to have before the internet, we had a Get Laid newsletter. It was an actual paper newsletter that we mail out in an envelope. And I had hate mail. I said, delicious. The paragraph would say, the heading of the paragraph would say, delicious hate mail. And then I would just write out their hate mail, and then I would do my answer. Wow. Like, I remember one guy went off on me for 2 paragraphs. You scumbag, motherfucker, Jew bastard, blah, blah, blah. And then my only response was, so, like, what are you trying to say? That was my response. Yeah, I love hate mail. Being hated on. Someone said, I think it was a wrestler, your hate makes me stronger. Yeah, I'm going to bounce out too, because I need to take my old man nap and do some other things. And then Katie, my super trainer, is coming at 4 to kick my fucking ass. But this has been great. Say, I went into this not knowing, I don't know any other panelists. I've never spoken before, but I was quite impressed. There was a great deal of wisdom imparted. So, and I definitely want to get connected with, what's his name? Marc? Justin Marc,
yeah.
Be connected to that guy. He's an interesting cat. We've both done Vipassana. And RSD, I happen to be on the same stage with Owen. Whoa, he looks much different than when I met him. He was like a 19-year-old fresh-faced kid right off the boat from Canada. From where's he from? Toronto or something? I don't know.
I think it's Ottawa.
I remember a lecture at Project Hollywood, and he was like this, laying on the floor like this, looking up at me with those puppy eyes, and he couldn't make eye contact. He creeped me out back then. He could do it now, but back then he just was shifty-eyed. He couldn't just look you in the eye and hold eye contact. It was kind of creepy. We would sit around, Mystery and Neil and I, and Love Drop, who was Mystery's business manager, I believe, was there, and Owen would sit there sometimes and join us, and we would like shrug, but he never said a word. He just looked at us intently, like you could see his wheels turning. I remember in the game, I said this in the game. I said, "Watch and see." Owen, Tyler. I didn't call him Tyler. I said in the actual conversation, I said Owen and I forget Papa's real name are going to take
Nick.
Owen and Nick are going to take Mystery stuff. And Neil says in the book, I chalked it up to Ross's competitive paranoia, but Tyler was soon to prove him right. On that note, I'm going to let you go. Ice, thanks for this. Blessings to you. And how is your wife doing now?
So I lost count of how many months it has been on chemotherapy specifically, but she's supposed to go for a year of that. So that's going to go to spring 2024. So we can't, I'm in London right now, so we're stuck here because of cabin pressure. She's from Peru, so while I would love to take her back to Peru or to go back to Canada, it's not very easy to do that because that would be an 8-hour flight or a 12-hour flight, and that would be cabin pressure, bad for the brain.
London treatment?
Huh?
London, where she's receiving treatment?
Yeah.
Okay, so you had to fly her out to England to get the proper treatment.
No. So we were here when she had the stroke.
Oh, I see.
So just the matter of, because I came, we were in Peru. I don't know, it's been complicated because I used to go Nova Scotia to London to Lima and then ended up back in London, but for a few months, and then it happened. So there's that. We're stuck here until further notice.
Hashem, I hope she survives and thrives, and my heart is with you. I know what it is. No, I've never been married, so I can't go to that extent. But my brother has leukemia. He's in remission, but I think it's back, and he suffers agony. He's in agonizing pain 24/7. So my heart goes out to you. And you, young man, how old are you? 20 what?
29, Ross, and I was with RSD at 21, so a long time ago.
Jesus Christ! I have to ask, off the record, isn't RSD something of a cult? I mean, it really struck me.
It ain't. It's just a movement, like you said, emotional talk. You've got some hypnosis there, and like anything, and it's a
company early on when the movement started, the game, every company came to me and said, we'll give you a 50% commission if you promote our seminars. I would say, fuck no, get fucked you. The only ones who didn't, to their credit, were RSD. RSD never asked to have anyone cross promote them. They kept their brand pure, to your credit.
Very, very well business savvy, man. They're businessmen. You know, like anything. As I'm getting more and more, I'm seeing different traits within business, and it's an interesting ball game. You know, they say that entrepreneurship or business is the closest cousin to war. That's why people are or capitalism, as they say. And so yeah, it's an interesting ball game, and I think more and more men are becoming aware of it, and it's fun. Not only as you've been in it for a lot of years, it's a fun game to play too.
All right, I need to go get ready and get my ass spanked by my trainer. I only wish. She's gorgeous. And talk to you later.
Thanks for coming. Thanks.
Nice to meet you, Ross.
Likewise, mate. Straight.
Alrighty. We could end it here, or if there's anything you want to say,
mate,
any
I
final
booked 4
comments.
hours. I booked 4 hours, so whatever you want to do, I'm more than happy. I got another hour and 45 minutes with you. I can do if you want.
We're gonna do 1 hour and 42 minutes of meditation. Holy no, there's
That's
no
it. That's
fucking
it.
way I'm doing that. Holy shit. So okay, I got a few questions that came in onto the chat. I just fucking clicked
Yeah, absolutely.
something. Okay, it's all good now. Hopefully. Ask questions about relationship dynamics, how to handle the relationship after we game and fuck the girl. Well, that's assuming you fucked her well. So there you go. Make sure you
Exactly.
do that. But yeah, the question is about relationships. Since you're one of the younger ones, have you
Yeah.
had many relationships?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had 3 relationships now. Longest one was 3 years. And I, at the start, wasn't good at them. They actually take practice, man. That's what no one wants to say. They actually take practice. You're not going to be good at relationships because, it's a lot of the time, as I see, you're probably well aware of that. It's a lot of it's frame control, and a lot of it's being able to handle disrespect and being able to handle shit tests because they never go away. The pushback on, are you a strong man? Is she able to fall into a feminine frame for you to be able to lead and lead effectively, is something that's always going to be tested. I know my grandparents, even my nan used to do that with my grandfather. They've been married 65 years. And I was just like, I was flabbergasted. Now, the interesting thing with me was I had a good paradox because I had my parents who never married, never together, and split up when I was a kid, and I had my grandparents who were together for 65 years. So I saw the both sides of what relationships were, where they had mini relationships, and myself, obviously. And what I've found is that the biggest thing that stuffs up a lot of relationships is 2 things. Number one, I'd say the biggest thing is that men get the validation from basically being able to have sex anytime, with the girl, and the girl being down. Well, most of my relationships I'm getting with a girl that, likes sex, and we have sex all the time. That's number one. Then guys get addicted to that validation, and that's what sources and feeds their confidence. So now the girl or the woman has the ultimate key to your good emotions and your happiness. That's a dangerous cycle because someone can rip that out real quick, or if she withholds or she weaponizes something, or because most relationships you get to know the intimate details, and in today's society what you're finding is that most relationships the woman is weaponizing the vulnerabilities of the men, and that's a really bad thing. Men are also doing the same thing with women too, so it's not just one side. It's just like, and
Yeah,
the
just
second
like
thing,
revenge porn.
yeah, exactly. It's kind of crazy, but and the second thing is that guys change themselves for the girl. I give a great example. Like you've got I usually do a voice with it, but I won't this time but it was basically like you got a motorbike, you're a leather jacket, bad boy, you're killing it. You get a girl she's attracted to, then she's attracted to, she thinks it's so hot. She tells all her friends that you're just bad boy with a motorbike. You get in a relationship. After a few years, she starts to nag at you that she's so scared about when you go out on the motorbike. She gets so worried, and this and that, and then finally her nagging you're succumbed to it, and then you sell the bike, and then you get a bit lazy, and then you don't go to the gym, and she starts to chirp and chirp and chirp, and then eventually she breaks up with you. And the reason, you're not the guy that I first was in a relationship with, because he's changed everything about himself because of, again, the addiction and the validation to the good emotions that the girl can provide to him. And so a lot of the time I tell a lot of my clients that you have to be your harshest critic, but your biggest cheerleader, that you are the one that's giving the validation to yourself, not allowing other people to hold that power over you. So that's my 2 cents on relationship dynamics. And again, at the start, most guys completely stuff up the dynamics in the start too. Like from the get-go of meeting her, that's when, if you get a relationship or not, that's when the dynamics are starting. From that get-go.
Interesting. I have had at least 7 relationships. It kind of depends on how you define it, or how long they were, stuff like that. I could say it could be 10, but I just go for 7. The ones that are more serious, let's say. I don't know.
Are they the ones you say like the what are we conversation? Because that's what I deem. I'm like, yo, this is what I think we're doing. Other than the little flings here and there, you can have hundreds of them, but they're not serious, I think.
Kind of. It's I've been married for nearly 4 years now, so um, I remember the order, but I'm trying to remember the ones that I'm not counting. I just can't remember
Sure.
which ones I'm trying to think of. But the ones I am of the seven, of course, I'm married to number seven of this list I'm providing. First one was obese, and that was my longest relationship until I got married. But actually, by the time I was married, we only knew each other for 5.5 months, so we got married very quickly. I mentioned this on a podcast, and they were like, "Holy shit, that's fucking crazy!" And they asked me, "So how do you recommend people get married?" And I said something along the lines of, when you get married in 5.5 months, you're either really fucking stupid or there's something right going on. And it's kind of hard to kind of teach which one you might be, because if you know, you know. But then again, there are a lot of people who, if I say that advice to my younger self, the first relationship I was in, oh, I know, but actually I didn't. So I thought I did know. It's just not easy to kind of describe these things. I'm just a redneck from the fucking forest. I'm very bad with my choice of words, but there you go.
You're fine. I like it. I like it. I'm Australian with a fucking potty mouth, so you know it works. It works, you know, equally as well, man.
That's good. I never talked to you before, so it's great to have you here. I never knew much
Absolutely. Thanks
about
for
you,
having me
but
on, man.
um, I want to ask you, actually, just off the top of my head a minute ago, how did you land the interview with Justin Waller? That was pretty good. That was only 2 months ago.
Yeah, it was a little bit a while ago. Yeah, that's a really good thing. So I teach a lot of the networking stuff. So again, you've probably had other people on like Michael Sartain, very similar guys, and so we're in the know-how of like who's popping and who's not. Now that wasn't something that I was like. It took years and years and years. It actually took quite you know, not that long at all. And so if you caveat that to, I actually interviewed one of his good friends, Sterling Cooper. So that definitely helped. So when you have that referral of like someone can go to your friend and be like, "Oh, is this guy legit? Is he cool?" And Sterling obviously gave a good thumbs up about me. I had a good interview with him, and you know, an Aussie, and I'll go end up. He's out in Marbella, so I'll go hang out with him soon. And so then I shot my shot at Justin, tried to get him on, and then we tried to do it in Dubai. I was in Dubai, weren't able to do it in Dubai. We our paths didn't cross. Tried in Romania, paths didn't cross again. And then I was in Miami. I was actually with a client in Mexico, and I jumped over to Miami, and I was like, let me just organize it. So I hit up his assistant. I was very close with his assistant Thomas, and Thomas is awesome dude. And we were made it happen. I just made shit happen. I have this way that I teach a lot of my guys and myself is, if you want to bend reality, you just have to make it happen. It's kind of like sleepless nights. You just make it happen. And there's no two ways about it. There's no, oh, it's not working or complaining. You just figure it out. So
Like you
know,
coming here at 6 a.m., you make it
yeah,
happen.
you make it happen, right? You know, a couple hours sleep, this, that, you make it happen. And then even here, you've got to be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. People are watching this, you know. I can be like, oh, I'm tired of it. No, you know, their attention is something that is valuable to me, and your attention is someone that's valued to me. So I go be that. So within these people, I made shit happen. You know, multiple different studios and this and that, and then finally we're able to organize it. And there's a little, I wouldn't say there's buzz, but I know a lot of people, you know, like you know, being familiar with his other friends, being familiar, you know, I was in Romania, we were hanging out with Sneeko, we were hanging out with a few other boys out in Romania. So I'm around the kind of scene. So they at least they know one or two people, and then a lot of people do know that my affiliation with Owen and the RSD boys, and so that definitely does help. There is some sort of prolonged value that I've given to the community per se, and now doing my thing here, which is, you know, people are noticing, which is awesome too.
So yeah, that's kind of interesting because I know a few. So Michael Sartain, I have been interviewing him since 2021, and actually that was before he started the podcast. So I'm kind of proud that I was like one of
Yeah, you're the one that found him, bro. Or
I,
at least it's a little bit of
I
discovery.
discovered him. Well, that's not exactly how it worked,
No,
but
yeah.
I was fortunate enough to be smart enough to figure out that he was a valuable person to have on our channel. And
Yeah,
he
absolutely.
was basically the first well, actually not really, because I had Ross Jeffries a few years before and Brandon Carter and all these other guys. But, you know, RSD, I was associated with RSD for some time.
Sure.
I think 2016, 2018, and then I think 2018, the very end of it, it was pretty much over anyway. So I was the leader of the biggest group because I was living in, I moved to London in the 2010s, and they had the biggest community there. So I was doing events. I got to meet Brandon Carter, now Derek Moneyberg, who was RSD Derek back then. Pretty much everyone in RSD I worked with or interviewed, apart from you and apart from Owen, actually. But Owen has called me a few times this year.
Awesome.
But yeah,
Cool.
pretty much everyone I did an event with. So networking really has always been a thing for me. It really started before all of this though, because the first ever kind of job I was doing wasn't really a job exactly. I started as an independent game developer in the 2000s, making my own mini games. And there were some, naturally, in this kind of video game community or of independence, there were the people who were the top of that game, and I befriended those guys. So even though it was quite some time ago, I was looking at it back then as climbing a ladder. But the way I kind of see it now is just making a lot of those connections. The way you described it, having those mutual connections really helped. Because I think 2 weeks ago now, I was on the Just Pearly Things live stream. And it helps to know she knows Michael Sartain, and Justin Waller has been on her show too, but I don't know Justin. But I do know some other people. Actually, Justin Marc was on her show a year ago, and I was with him 1 hour before that. I met him in person the same day, and I didn't make that connection until a few weeks ago. I didn't even know who she was until kind of recently. It was only recently that I realized. But what I did was I made a list of these podcasts, and I listed the mutual connections that I would see on the YouTube videos that I would go on. I was like, okay, so the Just Pearly Things one, I know Sarah Garvey, there's that guy, I'm friends with him on Facebook. Michael Sartain, she has been on his podcast. And I just list every mutual connection we have. And then I use that as like, so I'm a big believer in the 6 degrees of separation theory. There really is a lot of truth to that. It is pretty crazy. And
it's huge, especially in our industry. Very, very tight knit also.
Exactly. Oh yeah, for sure. And it just makes it easier because this is the second multi-coach panel I have done. 2 weeks ago, I think there were 7 of us. So surely if I keep doing this, and if one person refers another person, we go from 7 to 7 times 7 times 7 times 7. Ideally, but we had less people this time, and Justin and Badboy were on the last one anyway. But this kind of opens it up a lot more. So especially this year, I've been making those connections.
Having a legend, like Ross in the space is always fantastic.
I just got to switch to my last battery in the other one there.
No stress, bro. No stress at
See
all.
if this works. Could you say something?
Yo.
There we go. That works.
Perfect.
That
Yeah, no,
was
especially having Ross in the space and having, some big names, which is good, man. Like, it's one of those things that, networking is something that was never really taught. It was never really discussed. And it was something that was like a bit on the off burner, like, oh, yeah, but it's all girls, 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 girls. And that's fantastic. Don't get me wrong. And I'm all for it. But again, also developing your social skills. Some of my best understandings of people and human dynamics has been through networking with not only high status people, because you're dealing with someone that's almost like a celebrity. I get sometimes more nervous dealing with them than any girl that I've ever approached in the last couple of years, right? And you'd say it's similar, but let's just say, for me, one of the things is I try to lower that barrier of anxiety when I'm around people because it does change you. People are like, oh, how do you network with these people? It's like because I put myself around the biggest people in the world and I learn how to deal with my own anxieties, learn how to be able to control it, be able to manipulate it, be able to reframe it. And so this is not only because I've been around the biggest people in the world, but I've actually made efforts to be around these people, and it improves your network, it improves your net worth. If you've got a bunch of friends that are really, really rich, and you can never go broke because they'll always give you a job to do in their company or their business. Like you can't ever fall down to the ground. And I've fallen a couple of times, don't get me wrong, since when I've started. It's one of those things that it's a benefit to your life. And people sometimes don't see it. They think like, oh, game. And that's fantastic. That gives you the social skills. But that's almost like a pillar and a lever to pull. And once you got that handle, now it's time to play the real game of life, getting your finances on point, getting your social circle down pat, getting your network, really, really tapped in. Because I think that at a certain level, we can get to a level where, guys are teaching this cold approach and gets to a certain level, but then you've got to become that guy that is that, 10 out of 10, quote unquote, 10 out of 10. A lot of the time, that's what I teach a lot of the guys. I have a 7-pillar system, and game is only one of the pillars. Game is only just one pillar for me and what I teach. For other people, it's very, very huge. But for me, it's a way to improve your social skills so that you're able to leverage yourself. Because again, I could be going out roaming the club, but no matter what, if I'm in one of the most exclusive parties in Miami or Dubai or anywhere, and there's girls that are there and they're attractive and it's a barrier to entry to get into this event, man, it's almost like a done deal at that point. So there are different ways that I think about it, different ways that I've come from over the years because I've been surrounded by these kind of people. So I would say that networking is one of the things that, your audience, especially if they could definitely go, okay, well, look as you did, who are my connections? Like you did a great example. Who knows this person? Who knows that? How can I not only leverage that, but how can I get to know all these people through the people that I've already met? Fantastic, man. You couldn't have written it better how you did it for yourself.
Did you say earlier Aussie as in RSD Aussie in Marbella?
No. Sterling Cooper in Marbella.
Okay. Do you know what happened
no.
to Ozzy? Because he would have been perfect for this old bastards edition.
Absolutely. No, I'm not too sure. I haven't been in communication with him for a long time. So yeah, I wouldn't have a clue, my friend. Unfortunately.
He has
I hope he's doing well though,
Yeah,
Yeah, I hope he's
well,
doing well.
although he's a Cubano, so technically it's kind of difficult to contact anyone if they are back in Havana, let's say. That's from what I know, at least. So maybe that's the reason. I don't know. He just disappeared, as far as I can tell. I got a question here. So maybe so we kind of mentioned this on the previous episode. You weren't there, but one of the topics was around polygyny. So specifically a man dating multiple, not just dating multiple women at the same time, but having multiple girlfriends or having a girlfriend and then still dating. So
Yep.
I'm not sure what your experience has been in that case, but have you had any relationships like that or any experiences like that?
I mean, I quote unquote, you've always got like a main ting or a main girl, and then you're seeing on the side, and that's what the Playboy lifestyle's about. And I would say that's for me. And eventually, when I decide to settle down per se, that's something, unless we're, unicorn hunting together. But as a masculine man, and you're trying to get into the top echelon, a lot of the clients that I deal with, this is the lifestyle that they want, because they can't settle for the chocolate chip cookie for the rest of their life, because of what they've done to get to the position they are. They are, the 19-year-old girl that's got the highest value she's ever gotten is this guy that I'm dealing with that's 35. That's the highest value he'll ever be in his entire life. So I can understand why it's a topic that a lot of people want to get to. Whether or not people are even at that position to get it is a completely different story. I think more than half the percentage of people that are looking in relationships like this seriously don't have enough value to do it, because you'll find that they'll break up with their girlfriend and this and that. It's like extremely high value individuals are the only ones that can pull this off, because the downside of the girl leaving has to be so great that she either puts up with it or it's just something she understands. And some of my clients, like, I do know the levels of not only wealth but influence that they're dealing with. They're the ones that I'm like, yo, you can pull it off well. But other people, I'll say to them straight, I'm like, you're not valuable enough to be able to do it. Like, you have to be
Long
like a
term.
quote unquote. Yeah. Your
Yeah.
finances have to be. We're talking multi-millions. We're talking complete, like, I got a couple of guys and they're private jets. They're owning some big boy toys. Some fucking 100-foot yachts, this that, and they're the guys that can pull it off. And then it comes down to whether they want to or not. Whether that's the long-term thing they would. I feel that, that's the trajectory I'm going, just because, man, I've been in the monogamous relationships, and for me that works, but for the business I'm in, it doesn't work. And so it really comes down to your circumstances. Can a broke, like, I would say that any of these things are really good, but for either the top or the bottom of the totem pole, for the highest value dudes or the lowest value dudes, like the richest guys or the brokest guys. For the middle class, this doesn't exist. So I'll give you an example. So when you're in the richest class, you're hanging around your girl 24/7. If you're going on a work trip, she's coming with you. If you're doing this, she's going there. So she's always around you. So she's not getting programmed by or deprogrammed by the media, by TikTok and this. And so you can do a lot of these frame controls. Your dynamics of your relationships can be better. Who also spends a lot of time with their significant other? Brokers are joke people, like welfare, because they ain't working and they're around their spouse all the time. So they can do a lot of frame control, but the middle class can't do any of this. They can't. So it's either you go, I wouldn't suggest going downwards. I'd suggest going upwards. But the middle class, they are at work all day. Their girls, by themselves. If they go on a work trip, their girls consuming TikTok for, if you go on a work trip for 5 days, your girl might have consumed at least 20 to 30 hours of programming by the media, by TikTok, by Instagram. That's not great. So I would say that any of these relationships, it's for either the top echelon, the richest or the poorest, right? The middle class can't be doing this stuff because it's so hard to be able to control frames and control dynamics of relationships, which a man has to be able to be the leader of that. And when TikTok is in more of a relationship than you are with your girl, that ain't gonna end well.
Oh, that is fascinating, actually. That's crazy.
Yeah, very different, eh?
Yeah, okay. I'm thinking about this now. So there was, I'll give one or two examples. So one of my previous girlfriends, we were co-workers, and after a few weeks we started dating, maybe, and we had that conversation, like, what is our relationship? She came to me saying, I know you date other women and I'm okay with that for now, but eventually I will want to have you for myself, something along those lines. Pretty much that's how it went. As short as that's how the conversation was. Nothing complicated. It was pretty straightforward. And I was actually surprised because I'm pretty sure that was my first ever one where I was long-term intended relationship where that kind of happened. And then a few weeks later, maybe she was ready to have me to herself. So it didn't last that long. And then I went back to the East Coast. And then when I was on a boat sailing from Nova Scotia to New York, or to Maine actually. And then there are two computers on this boat. And luckily there's internet connection at this random spot in the ocean. And she was breaking up with me over messages. So we never saw each other again. But obviously it was the fact that our relationship wasn't going to work out long term. Obviously for her, that's how she was seeing it. And then the next relationship I had, not exactly the same thing, but we never had the conversation. That was the thing, but she knew what the deal was because of my Instagram and the implications and all the stuff I was doing. So it was just very much obvious. But there you go. I was a brokey in those times. So for me, at least, this theory kind of holds up. And then when there's the fact, maybe it's that thing when you have a mortgage and all these commitments financially, and you're earning X amount, not above it, not below it enough to be reliant on the welfare state or something like that. If you miss a moment, then you're in debt, something like that. So everything just becomes harder because the game you're playing is a constant financial struggle, something like that.
Yeah, no, 100%. The game is hard. It ain't easy, you know. At the moment, it ain't easy. Never will be. So some guys, I feel that they want the game to be easy, but you know, this is why that there is respect, and then there is admiration about people that can become the most valuable people in the world. That's where the respect comes from, because it is a hard game.
Speaking of hard games, a lot of, especially in the last year, maybe, or year and a half, there has been a huge kind of, or I'm not sure how it is in Australia specifically, but here, well, not here, I'm in fucking Europe, but in North America, at least, it's like a lot of Americans, Canadians, even maybe some English people or people from other parts of Europe want to date elsewhere, and not just date in terms of casually, but have a long-term partner or wife from South America or Mexico, or from, let's say, Thailand or something like that. It's a theme I've seen coming up quite a lot. So what's your kind of perspective on that? I think they call it like passport bros. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Just to clarify, I am not one. We met in Europe, so I am not one of those guys. I never went to South America until we were already engaged.
Well, man, no passport bros there. You're European. That's it. That's where you met. Cool. Yeah, passport bros. It's just cause and effect, man. Just cause and effect. That's all it is. It's like there's a cause where it's like, you know, guys are. There's two levels to look at it. It's just like when you go where you're treated best, always. That's the start, and everything's cheaper there, and that's why they do it. So I can understand the game, man. I can understand it, and for me, a lot of the times with the social circle, with the leveling up, the guys, the game and stuff that I teach a lot of my guys, unfortunately it ain't for that. It is more geared towards first world countries. But I can understand cause and effect. It's like if you're there and a lot of girls are treating you like shit and they're being disrespectful, and you go to a place where you find a land that magically doesn't have any of that, and they're very respectful, and you feel catered towards, and you feel $1 million when you're there, as if you wouldn't stay there, man. As if you wouldn't do it. And I understand that. I like to put myself in the pressure cooker. Always. As you know, when I answered that about the trauma, you get a little bit of an insight to my mind a little bit. So I'm like, oh, that's the easy way out. Nah, it's got to be done here. The majority of times, what I say with a lot of my guys is it doesn't matter where you are in the world. You become a valuable individual and you will get girls anywhere you want. You'll have a great connection with a bunch of cool motherfuckers, and you'll have the network and you'll have the opportunities and the social status anywhere in the world. It's just that guys, that are doing this passport would try to go to the easier countries. Is it their fault? And do I look down on them? Absolutely not. I think it's fantastic that they're finding their avenue, finding their lane. Do I think that there might be implications in the future? Yeah, a little bit. Do I think that it's just a matter of time before Western civilization and culture reach these places? Yeah. Are we looking at 10, 15, 20 years? Yeah, maybe. But at the end of the day, we're finding that the Western cultures of what women are being programmed with are becoming less desirable. Now, is that because men are becoming weaker and becoming more feminine, and then women are stepping more in the masculine role? Yes. Is it because the media are doing this? Yes. Is it because of this, that, and other things? And COVID? Absolutely. Is it because we had a hyperinflation of value over COVID and girls were getting tens of thousands of messages per day? Maybe. And now they're looking at that I only want attention from the most valuable individuals in the world? Maybe. So there's a lot of factors into that, but I have no problems with doing that. And I think, man, if that's something that people want to do and experiment, try it. Field experience is king. That's what we used to say all of the time. Go test it. If that's what you like, that's what you like, and that's works for you, works for you. And I just don't like people shaming other people for like their choice, as long as they know the ramifications. Like if you go to an easier place, things might not be as sharp, right? You might get a little bit lazy. You might get this because you're not in that pressure cooker of, like, let's say Miami, Florida, or Los Angeles, or Cape Town, South Africa, or where the most value, you have to become a high value individual, or Las Vegas or whatever. So as long as people know the causes and effects of the actions that they take, then I'm totally okay with that. And I think that more the merrier if they go there and they find love and they find it whatever they're looking for. Great, fantastic.
Mm.
What's your thing on it? Do you like that? Is that is that something you're seeing more and more? What about in London? Is that a thing in London? That you're seeing guys do that?
I think the guys in London specifically are just so trapped in London, just like I am. But they have the choice to leave, but they just don't have the money for it. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Wagwan, man. Yes.
No, it's kind of strange. I guess the guys in London are so fixated on just going to Oxford Street because the world is coming to them. So
Yep.
London's a very you were saying Sydney is a small kind of town, small kind of city. I was actually kind of surprised by that. But then again, not so much compared to London. I'm not sure what the population is of Sydney specifically, but London has, it depends on how you define it, where you draw the circle, but 8 million. Yep. And then, okay, well, there's tourism, and then there's a commuter belt and all the other fancy shit that you could say. It's a hot pot of the entire planet. And there was some kind of crazy statistic, something like 56% of London comprises of English people or white people or something like that. And then it was like 8% Asian or East Asian specifically. I can't remember statistics, but that was a good few years ago, at least. It's a very international city. The most visited city on Earth is Paris, which isn't so far away. But having the fact that I moved to London really opened up my dating opportunities, because I never really met people from, like, I even met North Koreans, or maybe she was just fucking trolling me and she was actually from South Korea or something. I don't know.
Right.
But I was like, oh, damn, that's not going to happen where I come from. And nationalities, I'm very good at geography. I'm very good with maps. I can name a lot of countries. I know exactly where every single state is in the USA and stuff like that. But there are these people I never seen before. And I just like to ask, where are you from? Because I was so used to seeing one kind of African, maybe West African, but I had never
Yep.
seen an Ethiopian before and with their different hair. And I was like, where are these people from? And I asked
Yep.
someone, a girl who was with me who was well, she was more West African, but from Trinidad and Tobago specifically. She said they're from Turkey. I was like, Turkey? That's a bit strange. No, she was just stupid. They weren't from Turkey. I realized years later they were actually Somalians or Ethiopians, something like that. So I
Yeah,
learned a
the
lot
world's
more
becoming more and more multicultural every
globalized,
single day. Yeah,
very
global, playing.
globalized.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I never knew too much about Peru. I knew it was a real country and stuff like that. I knew they spoke Spanish, and I knew maybe
Yep.
there was Machu Picchu. Maybe I knew that, or I definitely didn't know too much about it. But I did know the essential stuff at least, because my wife's from Peru, so I learned even more. But I without London, I wouldn't have had that kind of scope into the rest of the world or dated a lot of Italians or I would say French too, or pretty much Korean, Japanese, Chinese, you name it. Then again, the Chinese are everywhere. There are billions of them. I love Chinese food. It's not a criticism. Whatever.
That's your
Um,
thing. I mean, man, as I said, it's like if you become global as a man, and that's a good trait. It's good to have. It shows that you have number one, emotional control, but you've been experienced things. You know what you like and what you don't like. That's what I say.
mhm.
I'm very advocate for men going traveling and going exploring the world.
Yeah. I have seen a lot of guys go to, I have never been to Colombia before, but I have seen a lot of Americans go there and then they end up having a lot of trouble because of local problems with drugs or robbery or stuff like that. I have never had a problem in South America and personally. Then again, I went to Peru instead of Colombia. And then
Yep.
again, I was with a native, so there's a difference. They know where to go, where just it's
Yeah, oh,
just
yeah, of course.
completely different thing. So I had that local guidance. I knew how much things would cost. I knew what the scams would be or would not be, stuff like that. I had that kind of guidance because I was there with someone who is from there. So that
Yep.
is a kind of advantage. So we did have this kind of emergency last year where it got to a point where there were so many because we got two groups in Colombia, Medellin and Bogota, and
Hmm.
almost every single day people were just talking about the Scopolomine
Yep.
stuff, and there were people getting robbed or unconscious, all these crazy things. So it was like we need to make some kind of guide because one of these days someone's gonna get fucking killed.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Well, I think it's 1 in 4 or 2 in 4 get killed because of it. You just don't
holy
hear of.
shit.
Yeah, it's a
What?
lot more than you think. I think it was like 50%. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was a lot more than you thought. I had a friend that had it happen to him, and I
Yeah,
had to
that
like I had to call up the consulates, and I had to call this, and we ended up finding him. It was pretty crazy. It was crazy 24 hours.
damn.
Yeah,
Yeah, the stats seem to be pretty sketchy because that's just how Colombia is, I guess.
yeah. Well,
Not very
you're
official.
dealing with a free nation. Like I would say free. It's not really. It was a second world country or third world country. I don't know. I think it was
So
second world.
it is third world country is traditionally defined as a country that is not aligned with the Soviet Union or NATO.
Sure.
So it's a third world country in
Yeah.
that
Right.
sense.
Okay. So that makes sense. Yeah. So crazy shit happens in third world countries then.
But anyway, how did you get into RSD? So that was 8 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, about that. So I initially, as I said, where you asked for that catalyst was it was a breakup, right? So I had that
Mhm.
breakup, And that was pretty traumatic. That was actually, I was working directly opposite her. So we'd see each other every day. I was working in a men's suit shop and I would see her every day. It was great when we were together, but that lasted about 3 months. And that was a spiral. That was a real big spiral for me. I've talked about it a lot of times. Basically, it was about 10 months of like a real deep psychosis of depression, and it started to take a drug called Restovit, which is a sleeping medication. And then I got addicted to the feeling because once you come off sleeping medication, or once you take a lot of sleeping medication, when you wake up, you feel as if a truck has hit you. Your body is just like, oh fuck, like it just feels different. And it was great at the time because that was me feeling something. Like I hadn't felt anything for like 10 months. And so being hit by a truck was the best feeling I ever had. Anyways, long story short, it got to a point where I was like, yo, this is it. I can't keep doing. The girl was like, yeah, there's a little bit of tormenting me when I saw her and this and that. She ended up getting another dude. She would make up in front of the dude to get my attention and this and that. And I tried to move jobs. She ended up moving in the same place as me. I'm like, God, I can't get away from this girl. Anyways, long story short, I had a bottle of water and I got, I went to a bunch of chemists and got the rest of it. I got about 50 tablets and I was starting to pop them out and I was going to take it. I was going to take them, go to sleep, and then mum will find me. And I look back at this time and I wasn't like, I was very depressed and suicidal, but it was as if someone else was controlling me. I wasn't controlling myself. And this is where I look back as like destiny. So someone was controlling me. Anyway, so I was going to take all the tablets and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do 20 minutes of YouTube. I loved YouTube. That was a little bit of glimmer that I had. And what do you know? An Owen video came up in my search. So this was 20 minutes before I was about to kill myself. Owen video came up and I watched another one. And I put all the tablets and then I went on a 48-hour binge watch of every like RSD video there was. And saved my life, completely saved my life from the ground up. I wouldn't be here today without that moment happening. That's why I say it's a little bit like destiny. Anyways, long story short, I was like, I have to meet the man that saved my life. It's a great, you just want to see how far you can go. And I started to see girls and I was approaching and I was getting girlfriends and it was great. I was like, yo, this is really fun. Anyway, so then this idea of like, I'd been doing it for probably like 13 months, and I was getting really good. People in Sydney knew me and everything like that. I was going to the inner circle meetups and this and that. And I was like, yo, I want to go over and assist for them, get as close. I remember Gary Vaynerchuk talking about get around the sun. He talks about it. And the sun is the people you want to learn from. Get around them any way possible. So I booked a boot camp in Miami, and I went to the world tour that they had in Miami, and I went on this boot camp, and it was with the Owen and Jeffy. And in the first day, I tried to impress them. The second day, I asked them if I could talk to Owen privately. And we said, I asked him how I'd be able to assist him or Julian or one of the other guys or anything like that. And he said, oh, we'll talk about it. That night, I went out and I was Owen's wingman. It was really, really cool. This great set that we had and wingman. And then at the end of the night, we were in there's a hotel. I think it's the Standard in Miami, and they've got a great hot tub. And we were just chilling in the hot tub, just talking. And we ended up talking for like 7 hours. So it was the time he was going through his breakup. So I was talking to my breakup and listening to him for 7 hours. And then at the end of it, it was just like, yeah, like you're going to be my assistant, right? We'll give you a call. And I went back to Australia. I was like, oh, and then I waited. And then eventually the call came and then like, oh, Owen wants you to fly out in 2 days. I was like, oh, fuck. All right. I'll quit my job. That flew out. And then we got on very, very well. And again, for someone that saved my life, it was like a dream come true. And from there, I did a 3-month internship, and then I traveled with a bunch of the other instructors. They taught me, and then I became RSD Sam, and I was traveling and doing programs myself. But those year and a bit that I traveled with Owen exclusively was like groundbreaking. It was a really cool thing to do, as like almost like the prodigy kind of thing, which was cool to experience. So yeah, that's how I got into RSD. That's the full story basically.
Oh, that's crazy. Did you do any RSD videos? I'm not sure if there was like a channel, because I remember, of course, there was Julian's channel, Owen's channel, Ozzy's channel, though he wasn't really making many videos. Luke's channel, you name it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I came on the same time as Luke and Madison, and I had my channel at about a 5,000 to 6,000 subscribers. which was cool. So I had about 15, 20 videos up there. And that was cool until we departed ways. And then I don't have access to that channel. I took down the videos, but I have one video that I've actually put up on my YouTube channel. So that's a kind of cool thing that people can go back to and have a look, which is awesome. You know, the one video that I saved.
Is it a special one, or was it like just the one that you could keep?
Yeah, no, it was kind of special. It was a compilation. I remember it was just a compilation of my times. It was kind of like my resurgence into the community and try to, I was just trying to do different ways how to be able to engage with different people and actually show the lifestyle more than just like little bits of infield. So I wanted to show the lifestyle, and that's kind of been a catalyst, and that's been a foreshadowing for a lot of my stuff now, where I teach guys how to build their lifestyle, and one of the big pillars we do is social media and showing that lifestyle off, showing off who you are as a person, being able to show photos and videos where it puts you in a valuable light, and show photos and videos that adds a lot of comfort with a lot of girls and a lot of your circle, understand who you are. And so that, that video was foreshadowing to what became for the next, couple of years, which is building your lifestyle, building your social circle, networking, as well as gaining the attraction of girls, not only because you have access to them, but I teach a lot of the guys, as you've seen with what I say, is like I teach value and becoming like masculine. I've been teaching that for years and years, even before Tate and stuff like that, which was, you got to become a masculine man. It was I kind of saw the future, and I was like, there's no other way. I was the dancing monkey. I was that guy. I was the happy-go-lucky, fun. That's all I used to preach: fun. I actually had a video on it, and that was great for 2016, but 2023, that ain't working. You have to have different elements to your personality than just a happy-go-lucky guy. And no one other than me was more upset by that fact. I was the one that was upset, because that was my whole personality. I was super happy. People knew me as the happy guy, the fucking Australian guy. And that was great, but things change, and you have to be able to adapt with the times.
Okay. Let's wrap this up with one more question. And
sure, man.
Normally when I say let's wrap this up, it's like, and then let you go to bed. But you're in Australia, so let you have breakfast or whatever is happening.
I do intermittent fasting, so I won't be having breakfast, but I actually have a boat party at in a couple of hours. So I thought I'd do this and go to the boat party. I'll be socially lubricated.
Make it happen. What is your favorite city for game? Or you can name top 3. Whatever you feel.
Absolutely. So it really depends on what you think. If you're talking with me, man, I like big booty Latino girls. So I'm gonna choose Miami
That's not the first time I have heard that this week.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. So it comes down to different things. It's like Los Angeles is great because you get to be able to run a lot of the social circle game and be able to network with models and just have incredible relationships with girls. So my top 3 places, I really like, especially for my status game, my value game that I teach and I do myself. Gold Coast, Australia is really fun. It's really good. You get some amazing girls there. Miami, Florida, impeccable. I did like Romania is a great place too. Not a lot of people do. Any of the places in Eastern Europe, Bulgaria, this and that they're great. I traveled there a long time ago, so Romania was only a couple of months ago. But my favorite place this year has been Dubai, my friend. Dubai has been the fucking best place ever. Now, a lot of people say it's 80% prostitutes. Did not have that problem at all, man. I had strategies to be able to do that, and Dubai was quote unquote just amazing time for me. So I definitely will be going there and living there in the near future because of how good it is, man. It's just like a paradise of like every model comes there, every model knows, like it's a value game. They're looking for guys with money, but it's a really funny thing because what I understood is when everybody has the commodity. So let's say you go to a place like London, right? And the commodities, nice fits and cars and money. That's cool. But that's like only a certain amount of people have those, right? So the girls go after them. In Dubai, everybody has money. So that ain't the commodity. When everyone has the commodity, it ain't a luxury or rarity. Everyone has it. So what is the commodity that people are after? well, every guy's got money. Oh, personality wins in Dubai because every rich guy doesn't have a personality. But if you're charismatic, extrovert in this, they were lapping it up. If you have access like the access that I had, and you had the fast cars and this and that, your personality just shone through. And like, man, we had boat parties, we had everything. It was just a great fucking time because of the personality was just so was such a rarity there that it was just so easy to be able to not only game girls but be able to have mini relationships there. It was fantastic.
So this reminds me of what Michael Sartain was saying in one of my videos about a year ago.
Yeah.
Play the game you're gonna win. And if you're saying in Dubai everyone's playing that money game or the Lamborghini game, everyone's got these fucking flashy cars and all those luxury things, but it's not perceived that way because everyone has it, then the game you're gonna win is personality.
Yeah, 100%. And how have you developed your personality? Not having all the flashy cars and being, man, I'm 5'7". I have to develop personality. I have to be heard before I'm even seen. Most people look above me, right? So they at least hear me before. So yeah, that's the things. The shortcomings, quote unquote, shortcomings of being short have been a blessing in disguise in different places in the world. So I just go to the places where I'm treated best, and that's why I don't resent the passport bros, bro. That's where they're treated best, because they know a little bit of Spanish, they know a bit here and there. It's like, man, I'll go to the places where I'm treated best.
When you're having sex with a woman and you're about to come, you say shortcomings, shortcomings.
Yeah, no, I'll fun sized or some shit like that. Get ready for this fun sized load.
Fun sized party package.
That's it.
This has been a weird episode. Okay, the only thing I'm gonna say is I have never been to Dubai, but a lot of people are talking about it. Andrew Tate has a place there. Justin Waller said he was his neighbor getting a neighbor place there or something like that. Everyone's talking about Dubai. It's like the next GTA 6 is going to have to be Dubai or something because 1980s, the place to be was Miami. And in the 90s, it's like Los Angeles, Los Santos, New York in the 2000s or whatever. It's going to have to be Dubai pretty soon.
You got the Miami Vice, man. Your Vice City, that was it. Vice City at the start.
I'm wearing a shirt today.
I like. Oh yeah, it is. It is a GTA. Like I like it, man. And that's where my whole life came from. That's sick. It's like I used to play Vice City, and that's why I love Miami, man.
My favorite TV show is Miami Vice, so I got Crockett and Tubbs here. Fucking love that shit.
Don Johnson, there we go.
Classic. Yeah, but anyway, how is it in Dubai? Because obviously it's in the Middle East. It's surrounded by the very core of the Islamic religion in the neighboring Saudi Arabia, not so far away. I imagine there are lots of Saudi nationals probably living there, or maybe it seems to be a bit international, at least in many regards.
Yeah.
So they say like there's no alcohol allowed, you can't hug in public unless you're married, stuff like that. How does it actually work? Or don't incriminate yourself. There has been so much of that going on in these videos.
No. Yeah, no, I'm more than happy to talk about it because it was a great experience there. I think the Saudi nationals live more in Saudi Arabia. I think it's a bit more of a business center there. And Dubai is more for the nomad entrepreneur guy that wants to live it up. The alcohol stuff, they usually you can't buy or in some restaurants you could have it, but it was more the hotels. Oh, no, actually, I don't think there was any alcohol in restaurants, only hotels and nightclubs. So you could get alcohol. It's not as a bit, but you had to have certain licenses, and this is where the hotels did those kind of things. But think about a place where no drugs are, limited alcohol. Sure, there's this is where all these prostitutes are going to because they're getting they're getting lots and lots of money for sure. I just didn't look at that. I looked at it as such a safe haven for there's no drugs, there's no alcohol, and man, I've never felt safer in my entire life. Like I live in Sydney. It's probably one of the safest places ever. I felt safer in Dubai. other than driving in the car. That was pretty scary because they're fucking wild on the streets, man. They drive like maniacs. But
Doing their
I never felt
whirlies
that-
on two wheels.
yeah, man. It's crazy. But you know, there's laws there that you know, like you could leave your keys, your phone, your wallet, and you could come back in 6 hours and it's still there. Right, the level of safety is incredible. Again, you can't be caught stealing. I think they take a hand, right? Like that's the level at which they do. It's pretty wild, but again, it's a place where you know not to fuck up, so you don't fuck up there. And so there is that level of respect. And again, one of the biggest things that I got a bit of flack for recently was saying Dubai. I've never had a place where, not from Dubai, from Australia. Australia, people avoid eye contact. They're very sheepish. They don't want to look at you. Dubai, everybody wanted to look in your eyes and smile and say hello. And it was the most welcoming and warming place. And I just didn't know how repressed and how much the last couple of years had changed as Australia, when no one wants to look at you. They're all scared of you. In Dubai, they're all happy to see you. And I was like, wow, this is a very interesting phenomenon. Is there bad parts of Dubai? Yeah, absolutely. Is there bad parts of any place in the world? Yeah, absolutely. You're from Nova Scotia, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm sure there's bad parts of Nova Scotia that you're like, yeah, we don't want.
The dark side. Oh,
Yeah,
yes, there
yeah.
is.
So it's like anywhere. So, but you know, it's an experience. Again, you got to go there with money. It's one of the, it's pay to play basically in that sort of city. But it's a city that, you know, I'm willing to go to the ends of the earth to find different places that are awesome to be at. Again, and you know, being able to bestow that information on the guys is awesome. That you know, one day they might go and they might love it too, which is awesome.
Alrighty, nice. Perfect. Let's end it here. Any
Okay.
final comments? This has been a pretty strange episode, maybe. I don't know.
They're different. No, man, thank you very much for having me. It was good to see the gangsters like Ross on, you know, the original, the OGs. That's cool, man. Like, you know, I'm not someone like, I don't consider myself like too part of the game or anything like that. I just teach what I know from history, what I've been a part of. And it's interesting to see people that have come from where they were to, you know, Ross, you know, talking about what he was talking about. Badboy, you know, experiencing with, you know, getting shot in the head and have to learn and walk. And obviously Justin, you know, me and him being the young bucks, he was in Toronto, I'm in Sydney. And so it's cool to see everyone. So, you know, this is really good that you're doing that, and not only being the pioneer for getting people together and being that connector. So that's going to work in your favor for a lot of years to come, my friend, if you continue this, for sure.
Wait. Oh, there's no way I can't continue it. It's just gonna
Exactly.
have
You're
to
getting
keep
people
going.
together, man. You're keeping the history alive, which is awesome.
For sure. Alrighty, thanks for coming.
Appreciate you, my friend.